Radhan, CEO of our protocol, then the event head of Winzala 2020. I hope the day one presentation was really great and everyone enjoyed it. And yesterday we started with Pragadish Babu. He presented about how companies perform web app pen testing. As a pen tester, I really found personally helpful. Thank you for the great presentation, Pragadish. And when it comes to VAPT, it's really important so that we can secure the site before hackers completely take over it. Thank you for the presentation, Pragadish. And now that we have Megha Sahai, she is a software dev and a InfoSec enthusiast. She'll be presenting about third in OWASP sensitive data exposure.
Hello everybody, my name is Megha Sahai and I'll be a speaker for the next half an hour. I'm a software developer in Larsen & Toubro Infotech, but parallelly pursuing my passion in cybersecurity domain as well. So I've chosen this topic, sensitive data exposure, because you don't need to master anything to have a knowledge on this. And particularly what is in it for you guys, I'll be telling you some questions which are interviewers' favorite question if you go in as a fresher in cybersecurity domain. So moving on with it. So it is the third top vulnerability in OWASP. OWASP is nothing but it's an open web application security project, and it is an online community that produces the article, tools, documentation in the field of web app security, basically the websites. So how secure they are and what are the vulnerabilities. Now, OWASP has a list of security risks, but you need to remember the top 10 as the interviewer will ask you, what is OWASP and what are top 10 OWASP? So you need to be familiar with those 10 of that particular year. So what basically sensitive data is for everyone? Their password, their OTP, their SSN. So we all know what the sensitive data is. The question is how to protect it. So I will be telling you some attacks that exposes the sensitive data. Though attacks are not limited to this presentation, but I will be explaining you in detail that what are these. So starting with Google enumeration. Google enumeration or Google DRUK. Now this is nothing but a simple advanced query which you use in Google. Basically, you can search for vulnerabilities in Google as well by using such advanced operators like cite, in URL, in title, in text, file type. And how do we use that in Google? Now that is a question. Now I will be explaining you all these by showing you the practical. Okay, so let me start with an example of Google DRUK. We will be using MySQL password extension, that is ext, text file, we have used this pipe, or extension env. Now env is the environment file, which is like really important for any web application where they keep the password secure in the env. So we will try to find and get one file with this. Yeah. Let me see. Okay. So the database is MySQL. And you see here, the username is this and the password is this. So sometimes it may happen that they may put up a dumb data That is the dummy data. So even if you report it, they'll thank you for reporting, but you won't gain anything. So you need to make sure that it is the actual data or the password. And sometimes the password is also actual, but they have modified it, or you know, according to the years, they have just. So see here, the password and where the email is this test.com. So here we come to know that this is a test ID. Maybe the page is just kept to test the data. So yeah, moving on. LFI, that is the local file inclusion. It is actually also known as the directory traversal attack. So here, it happens when the application is poorly written. These vulnerabilities occur when a web application allows the user to submit an input like this dot dot dash dot dot dash. We use it to move inside the directory, basically to a folder where all your passwords are kept. So this is a kind of a vulnerability which is actually not found these days. I have seen less of bug reported on LFI, but this is good for knowledge. So I've kept it in my document. Okay. All right. Moving on. Yeah. Broken access control. Broken access control is anything which breaks your authentication. For example, you need to authenticate yourself for getting into a website. For example, take your OTP. Now, if you bypass that OTP to get into the website, that will be known as the broken access control attack. Now, I have shown you one video regarding this. I have just made it last night and recorded it for the demo. So here we will bypass the OTP. So see how we go on to the register page and type a password, but that password, that email or phone number, that phone number was taken. So simply change the phone number. And then try it. And I have used Burp Suite here. Now, as you see, it shows me to enter the OTP, but I don't have the OTP. So I'll write the random 4-digit number and then I'll intercept it through the Burp Suite. Now, after this, you will be going to action, do intercept and response to the intercept. This will actually catch the OTP which you are getting, and then you can change the params according to you just to get into the website. See, success false and messages incorrect OTP here. So you will just change the parameter here. Success is true and messages correct OTP. This has been very simple. Okay, so then we'll forward the request after the change. You know, there are many packets here. Okay, and see, registered successfully. So this is actually a good example of how you can break into a website, but this is only for the educational purpose. And well, you can have a hands-on on other website as well, and you may get a bug bounty for this kind of a bug. Okay, so never lose hope even if you don't get bounties, but when you'll have your hands on on Burpsuit, and you will know how to register them, how to track the application, and you know how to write the POC. So everything will get into the flow. Okay. So phishing attack. Now phishing attack is a cybercrime, and in this the targets are contacted by email or by phone or by the text, and something they will be posing as a legitimate institution just to lure you by their smooth talk or by email. And you see everything nice in that email, that you have received this, you have got a coupon, you have got a voucher, you have won a lottery, stuff like that. So this is a kind of a phishing attack, is really dangerous. And let me tell you, 94% of malwares, they are transferred via email. Okay. So the type of phishing. Okay. So smishing. Smishing is something where you get an SMS which tells you to click a link and you will get a free offer, or like here, large free gifts and large meals and stuff like that. And these are actually a fraudulent practice of email phishing is basically of the person sends you an email, and you will find their threats like, if you do not open this application, you will be disabled from our record, you will be removed from our record, or your mails will be erased. So you will get these kind of threats, and there will be a spelling errors in those emails. So be careful, you guys, be careful of these emails. Veiling is something, it is a method where a senior portrayed to be a senior of the organization, it will be coming from the senior that will be asking for your computer credentials. So this is something just to gain the information, the sensitive information. And spear phishing is basically targeted. It is targeted to an individual, but from a brand like Netflix. I have given here one example. Okay. And yeah, wishing is not here written, not a sample here, because wishing is through the phone call. So these are basically the telephonic frauds. Okay, moving on. Cross-site script. Okay. So smishing. Smishing is something where you get an SMS which tells you to click a link and you will get a free offer, or like here, large free gifts and large meals and stuff like that. And these are actually a fraudulent practice. Email phishing is basically of the person sends you an email, and you will find their threats like, if you do not open this application, you will be disabled from our record, you will be removed from our record, or your mails will be erased. So you will get these kind of threats, and there will be a spelling errors in those emails. So be careful, you guys, be careful of these emails. Veiling is something, it is a method where a senior portrayed to be a senior of the organization, it will be coming from the senior that will be asking for your computer credentials. So this is something just to gain the information, the sensitive information. And spear phishing is basically targeted. It is targeted to an individual, but from a brand like Netflix. I have given here one example. Okay. And yeah, wishing is not here written, not a sample here, because wishing is through the phone call. So these are basically the telephonic frauds. Okay, moving on. Cross-site script. All right, cross-site scripting. Now, cross-site scripting is actually a client-side code injection attack where the malicious scripts are injected into the trusted websites. So I'll be showing you one example, in a demo website here, my screen is visible. Okay. So, this is the search bar. And if I write script, uh, see, there is a pop-up coming. So basically, this is a test website, but I will be telling you all the part on how it is done in XSS. Okay. So what are the types? Now this is the interviewer's favorite question again. What is XSS and what are its types? It has basically three types: the DOM-based, the XSS, reflected XSS, and stored XSS. I'll tell you the difference in these three. Now, DOM is nothing but when it occurs in the document object model. Anything after hash, it will not forward to the server. Yeah. See. So DOM-based XSS is coming as a pop-up, as I've used alert here. Now, this is a main difference. Well, I'll be telling you about reflected first. Now, if I simply write, see, now this, what I wrote is getting reflected here. So how can we temper that? What if I write this? See here. Now this is getting reflected. Okay, let us try. See, now this has changed its color. Now, whatever I am typing it as an input, it is not even validating. It is just giving me the output here. So this is the reflected. And the base difference of reflected and DOM based XSS is that it cannot be stored by the server side filters, because anything that is written after the hash, this does not go to the server. And stored based XSS. Stored based XSS is also known as persistent cross-site scripting. Through this, the injected malicious scripts, it get permanently stored inside the web applications database server, and server drops it out when the user visits the respective website. So this is the store base XSS. Okay, what is cross-site scripting impact here? I have not maximized it because I need to show you that how is it affected. Okay, so how can we find out, like, what could be the impact here? Yeah, sensitive data can be exposed, and other than that, you can expose the user's cookie, the document cookie here. See, if we write script, so That's the session ID. That's the cookie which I'm talking about. Yeah, so XSS is really dangerous, and a high bounty is given if you have find the XSS in the web application here. Okay, moving on. Hmm. So SQL injection attack. SQL injection is actually when you input the unsanitized query. Basically, I'll give you an example. Like if you write in Windows, it's 1 equals to 1. You can write anything like 2 is greater than 1, so this condition is always true, right? So you can get in through a website. If it has the SQL injection, you can find out. Okay, for example, I'll get on the types little later. So sign up or okay. So we know here the username is test and the password is test for your reference. But we don't want to get in through that, okay? What if I write 1 equals 1 tac tac and this same I use it as password and I log in. So I get into somebody else's account, which is on the top, must be on the top of the database. Moving to our presentation. Now, SQL injection has actually many types, and these are just the limited ones. The in-band SQLI, error-based SQLI, inferential, out-of-band, time-based. So we'll be discussing about these. These are basically the theoretical part of it. Now, in-band SQL is the attack that has used the same communication channel to perform the attack, and they retrieve the result. Error-based here, error-based will tell you about how the bad input is to the database. Basically, they try to create the database error. So blind SQLI is when the website is vulnerable to SQL injection, but an attacker cannot view it because it is not visible on the screen. So that is blind SQLI. Time-based blind SQLI is one of the same thing, but you use a delay function there. You will write delay query. The attacker uses a different communication channel here to perform the attack and obtain the results simultaneously. So the tautology I've already used and showed you there how one gets into this, and tag is basically to comment out the code after it. So that's why we use 1 equals to 1 dash dash. We have come to an end of our PPT. Any question you have regarding this, you can definitely ping me on LinkedIn. And my name is Megha Sahai.
Thank you, Megha, for your great presentation and even for covering common vulnerabilities apart from directory traversal attacks. Companies may have secured their website from really secured from script-based attacks like say RCE or XSS by using Cloudflare WAF, but still sometimes they fail in hiding sensitive data. So thank you for the great presentation. And now that we have Vismit Sudhir Rakecha, aka DRUK. He's in cybersecurity field from past 6 years. Now he's a senior security analyst for Evolent Health International. He will be presenting about IoT and
Hello everyone, thanks for joining. So today my topic is IoT Anubhrut. So who am I? My name is Vismit Sudhir Rakecha, aka DRUK. I am SSCP, CHFI, CCI Security. Currently working as Senior Security Analyst at Evolent Health International. I am Chapter Leader Webs Ahmedabad, a bug hunter. So quickly going through disclaimer, I don't own any of the images I used in this slides, I simply googled it. Whatever I am demonstrating is for educational purpose only. Research was conducted by me and does not reflect the vision of Evolent Health.
Basically, if we're going to wiki definition, the IoT is a system of interrelated computing devices, mechanical and digital machines, objects and objects, animals, or people that are provided with the unique identifiers and the ability to transfer data over a network without requiring human to human or human to computer interaction. Okay, in the simple way, IoT is basically can be a gadget, okay, with some CPUs, RAM, chips, and protocol device. Okay, it's not like your typical laptop or a system with a keyboard or with a mouse pad. Okay, depend on the device, okay, what you are using. Okay, it can be customized. Like, okay, if I'm using a smartwatch, so it's just having a display panel, okay, and a touch sensor. Okay, if I'm using a smart cam, so it's just having a cam over there, a recording device, and a protocol or a Wi-Fi card in that. Okay, so basically that is IoT. If I'm talking about, like, okay, when we say IoT, it's really cool thing right now. Everyone is just running towards IoT or IoT security or IoT pen testing or development of some IoT devices, robotics. Okay, so basically IoT is a combination of 4 or 5 things. Okay, that is basically your hardware, your web and mobile application, cloud, internet, and a communication. Okay, so basically that whole bunch makes the IoT. Obviously, like, okay, if I just take an example of a smartwatch. Okay, so it's basically you are having the hardware, the band you are wearing. Okay, mobile application from which you are just syncing up with your phone and your watch. Okay, cloud, we are not having cloud in a smart band, but if you are talking about a smart cam, or then we are having a cloud, so you can just post your videos or a photo over there. Internet, obviously you require an internet connection or some BLE connection to make a communication with your device and with your mobile application. So there are lots of internet of device right now present in the market. You are having a smart coffee maker, a smart band, a smart gun, scans, locks. Okay, there are thousands of things available. Okay, with the with the tag name of a smart. Okay, but what I researched in few past years, okay, and I have few friends in IoT security or a VAPT also, but they are not such smart things. Just they are simply making your work easy or just giving you some cool gadgets so you just look cool. That's all. Even we are having a pacemaker. I think if you remember or not, in DRUK, okay, guys showed like, okay, how you can hack a pacemaker. It's damn easy that if you hack some pacemaker, you can give him a shock that can give him or her to a death. Okay, so there are lots of devices, even a coffee maker. I think everyone, there was a picture viral, I think, last year with a ransom thing, like, okay, if you are using thousands of smart devices in your home, like, okay, a coffee maker or a vacuum cleaner or you can say a smart camera for that, tracking devices. Okay, so it's basically one can easily hack that thing out and just start malfunctioning it. Okay, one can demand a ransom for that. So all the IoT things are common, are having a common things like CPUs. You can have a camera over there. Okay, but what I found out, like, okay, there are lots of issues, like there is no authentication. Okay, in most of the IoT devices, there is no security, there is no encryption. Okay, in most of the IoT devices, the API, you can find some secret keys, some username and a password in their APIs. Okay, and you can find some backup files. The cloud communication is not encrypted. So there are lots of issues going on with the IoT devices. These are some current news. Okay, what I think is like Australian security camera hack is streamed on the Russian-based website. Microsoft catches Russians, said hackers using IoT devices to breach the network. Drones, vibrators, kids' toys, like, okay, I think I remember, like, okay, I think few months back there is a child monitoring cam. Okay, it is vulnerable to, like, okay, someone can hack into it. Okay, and they can just record whatever things are going into your child room. Okay, or what they are doing. Okay, vibrators. Okay, sex toys. There are lots of things. Okay, as I already tell you, the companies make it smart, but they are damn lazy to put some security things into that. Okay, so how to start how to start to penetrate a IoT device. So we will go with some basic tactics that helps you to penetrate IoT devices, like it's a hot topic right now. So the scope of testing. So as I already told you, like okay, IoT is a bunch of 4 or 5 things. So the first thing is your firmware. Everyone knows, like okay, what is a firmware? It's basically that helps you to. It's basically you can say a software, okay, for your hardware devices that makes user to communicate with the device. Hardware, okay, just take an example of bang, you're again the bang, that's your hardware. The software, okay, the cloud environment, as I already told you, suppose you are using some CAM or something like that, so it requires a cloud. Then communication, if I am using a band, Bluetooth band, so it's required a BLE, okay. If I am required some mobile CAM I am using, so it's mostly using CD, wireless communication, CoAP, okay. So basically this is the thing. So firmware and hardware, we will mostly check like JTAGs, UART, serial ports, memory chips, etc. And software, mobile and web. Okay. In cloud it can be anything, like okay, might be they are having their own cloud or something like that. So basically, what are the current security problems we are facing? Okay, and if I'm talking about a firmware or a hardware or a web or a mobile or a cloud. So let's start with the firmware. Okay, and firmware, like most of the times, like the encryption is not there. The validation is missing below. I can update a firmware. Okay, I just downloaded the firmware. I just customize according to me, and I can easily upload. So there is no validation. There is hardcode sensitive information is also available. Okay, like you can get sometimes a username and a password or some keys or a cloud default username and a password. There are lots of sensitive information is also present. Like okay, few months back I stripped the CAM, like okay, a Chinese CAM, so I get username and a password, hard-coded username and a password, okay, in that. In hardware, like most of the open debugging codes that is known as UART is mostly open, and like okay, if you buy some Chinese products like okay, CAM or some robots or some you can say child toys or something like that. So in most of the times, like all the things like okay, UART port or JTAG ports and everything is printed on board, so you don't have to go much around that. So everything is readily available in your plate, so you have to just export that. Okay, and they are having insecure storage. Like okay, in most of the time, like what I noticed, like okay, as I already told you, like okay, username and a password, some keys, some cloud, or some sensitive information are already stored in the hardware, okay, without any encryption. So when we are talking about a web application, so obviously like the same thing what we are doing, you can have a check SQL injection, like okay, in most of the web application authentication bypass is possible, XSS is common, CSRF is there, SQL injection is there, so you can check out these things. In mobile application, again the same thing, like XSS SQL injection is damn common over there. Insecure APIs, like okay, what API calling is damn insecure. Authentication is damn missing in most of the mobile application, what I tested till yet. So these are few problems right now we are facing in IoT security. Or if you are into bug hunting, like I think there are a few programs available on HackerSploit, okay, so you can test their IoT, you can find a bug in their IoT programs or something like that, so you can follow the same methodology what we are testing today. So what will be the IoT time testing methodology? So the first is evolution, device recon, okay, tiering and without tiering, okay, we will discuss on that. Mobile, cloud and web APIs, firmware, reverse engineering, network or communication, you can see. Okay, non-invention, hardware attacks, videos. Okay, so let's get into it. So the very first thing, okay, what we are testing is known as, we will start with without tearing down. Okay, so if you are having a device, like if I'm having my iPhone, your Android phone, your routers, your band, anything, okay, so most of the times you can see the FCC. Okay, that is basically you will get in FCC the component version, hardware version, software versions, software system used. You will get lack of information over here, like okay, all the juicy information you can find on FCC, and you can get a UART, JTAG, SPI, okay, what you can say, the internal circuit board, everything is present on that. I think if you notice, you will get something like that if you check your back of your whatever product you are using, or if there is some handbook or instruction guide, you will get things in that. In Apple, I think in general there is some information like that, so it will shows you the FCID. So how to check that? So let's take a look. There is a damn good. It's visible, right? Yeah. Okay, that's good. So there is a website known as fccid.io. Okay, so that's simple. Just take any FCC ID. We will take our own. So our FCC ID is okay. Like that. And this stands for today. So we will take this HV4. SP17. Search for it. See, lots of information. Site is damn slow. Okay, you will get the what the issue? Okay, the application name, okay, equipment, the the BLE frequency range over here. You can get the user manual over here. If you want, you can check the internal photos. Just click over here. So if we are checking for some hardware issues like okay, debugging port, UART port, JTAG port, so we can directly get information, lots of information from here. You will get all the internal bits like that one by one. You'll get all the circuit diagrams and everything on fccid.io. I will share the link with you. Get CPU information, you will get memories, you will get physical ports, whether they are using some ETH, USB, Ethernet, USB, circuit connection, UART or JTAG diagrams, architecture, if they are using some BLE, radio, whatever frequency range you will get a wealth of information over there. So that is the first step. You can start with the record. If we tear it down, like, okay, so just how you will tear it down, obviously you just require some screwdrivers and just open it. Okay, and just check out, like, okay, like as I already told you, like if I'm going for some Chinese devices, okay, in most of the Chinese devices, okay, everything is printed on board, like you will get everything over there, okay, like JTAG, yeah. This is the thing what I want to show you. If you check out, like, everything is printed on the board, okay. So it's damn easy to find out, like, okay, and if it's not printed on the board, okay, so you have to check it manually, okay. It's damn easy. You can even check on FCCID, like, okay, you can use some Google Docs to find out, like, okay, what are the bugs present, or sorry, what is the internal or external structure of that. So what you will get in tearing down, you will get a USB and the serial port. You can look out. It's damn easy. You can easily look out to that. Okay. Then you can check for UART. UART is mostly basically you will easily find with some like 3 or 4 pins. Okay. Mostly it might be a spike pin or a onboard holes also. So you can find it out. It's damn easy. I will show you the better way to find it out. JTAG, you can easily find it out. JTAG you will get. It's mostly like in the set of 6, 12, 13, 20 pins. SPI is mostly used, it's basically a flash chip, okay. So you can check it out. So, okay, so these are the things. That's fine. We will cover UI. Okay, now what is firmware? As I already discussed, like, okay, firmware is mostly used to have, it's basically some softwares, okay, that present on your device that is responsible for running the IoT devices. It's just like basically our operating system, that helps you to interact with the user. Okay, so we can obtain a firmware. Okay, there are a few other methods also, so I will share each and every method with you. So the very first thing, you can use some vendor website. If suppose I am using a brand of Fast Track, so I can easily get a firmware on a Fast Track website. Okay, you can use some like, okay, if I am saying like Fast Track, so there are lots of Fast Track support groups, forms are available. You can ask over there. You can email to the vendor's website. Okay, they will give you. You can download from some FTP servers. There are lots of FTP servers available where you can download a firmware. You can Google it. You can easily get that. Okay, and you can dump the firmware from the device. Okay, and how you will do that, I will show you definitely. So this is, I think, of TP-Link. You can in form update. I think you can easily dump a firmware from there. So what we will look in the firmware, as I already tell you, like, okay, you will get sensitive information about devices, hardcode SSIDs will be there, hardcode password you will get, API tokens and some endpoints. You will get some configuration files if you are lucky. Source code is there. I found when I tested few IoT devices firmware, so I get lots of private keys over there. Hard coded. If you check out source code, so there are like, okay, most of the developers, don't get me wrong, but what I tested in IoT, like, okay, they are damn lazy. So I found lots of hard coded username and a password in the command things. So you can check out this thing. So how you will do that? So for firmware analysis, okay, You can use Hackstuff. Okay, that is a good feature available in Linux. Okay, and you can use your dash and your firmware name. Okay, what I personally like is Winwalk. Okay, Winwalk is used mostly for extraction. Okay, and if you want to go for some automation, so there is Firm Walker is there and FAT is there. Okay, damn good tools. But I personally suggest you to use, if you are using, so I mostly suggest you to use Winwalk. Okay, it's damn good tool. Like you have to just like Winwalk -e and just give your firmware name. So it will extract most of the things over there. Now let's talk about our hardware part, the UART part. As I already told you, like okay, you can easily identify UART pins. Okay, on your board. So mostly if it's printed and if it's not printed, so you will see in group like 4 or a 3. So it's onboarded. I recently cleared down. I showed in one of the meet like TP-Link router. So how you can exploit a TP-Link router with the UART code. So it's basically that big. So you can easily identify by like okay, it's a group of 3 or a group of 4. So basically the 4 pins represent VCC, that is GND, TX and RX. VCC is voltage, GND is your ground, TX is for transmit and RX is for receive. Basically UART is you can say it's basically universal asynchronous receiver and a transmitter. Okay, as a synchronous works on time clock, so it's the clock rate, and so UART is mostly worked on baud rate. Okay, you can set a baud rate on which is basically do a communication. Like okay, if I set a baud rate of 9,600, so all my communication will be done on 9,600 baud rate. So you can define like that, like okay, which baud rate you want to use. Now, how to identify like okay, which is my VCC port, GND port, and a TX port if it's not written on the board. So it's there are 2 or 3 methods for that. Okay, you can use multimeter for that. Okay, just find out the GND pin. It's damn easy. GND, like okay, just touch your multimeter probe over GND and on some metallic device. If you get a beep, that means it's GND, and just keep your one pin on the GND and other on TX. Okay, and just turn on your device, because once you turn on your device, the boot process is going on and you will just transmit lots of data over there, so you can easily find out that thing. Okay, but actually what I found personally, like it's damn hard to find out the pins via multimeter. So there is a damn good tool known as Logical. I will share again a link with you guys. So it's damn easy. You can find with the logic that okay, which pins you have to just shuffle the pins and it will give you lots of information. So, and one more thing I forgot to tell you. You require a damn good tool. Okay, mostly I prefer to use is USB TTL. That is used to connect your whatever hardware you are testing to your system. Okay, it's a simple device with just like your USB, and on the other side it's having a pins like GND, VCC, TX, RX. You can directly connect over there. So it will basically help you to communicate with your system and your whatever device you are using for testing, like it might be a router or when we are testing is mostly used to dump a firmware or to write a new firmware in that. Okay, they provide direct access to your RAM, flash. Okay, so it's damn easy if you are writing or if you are just uploading your own crafted or vulnerable firmware. Okay, so as I already told you, like you can find in a bunch of like 6 or a 12, 13, 18 or a 20. It's basically in the pair you can easily find out. It's basically my TP-Link router, so you can see like okay, these are my GND pins and these are my GTEC pins. So easily you can easily find it out. It's not that much difficult. Okay, now let's talk about identifying loopholes in your web consoles. Okay, so what things you required when you are identifying bugs in your web console? So you just required, mostly I preferred, okay, I'm just using Bugsuit for that, okay, or there are thousands of other tools available. You can use some of the scanners, okay, um, Arachini or Equinetics, but obviously you will not get the perfect things in that. So I prefer WebZap or WebSuite you can use. Okay, that is the best thing. You can mostly like, okay, what I noticed, like, okay, XSS is damn easy, SQL injection, authentication bypass, IDOT. Okay, so check the permission level of the like, okay, just created 2 users in that. Like I worked for software solution as a product security head over there. So you can have like that. Okay, you can create 2 accounts, like, okay, one with the admin rights and one with the normal privileges, and just try to cross verify it. Okay, just try to, like, okay, set up the permissions, or just, so in most of the times, like, okay, it will bypass that particular thing. So as a web console, if like simple things, what mostly we are trying to find out in our when we are doing a VAPT or a bug hunting. So same things we are finding over here. In mobile application, again, there are 2 tools to be used. Like mostly what I prefer is again a Bugsuit, and Move SF is that is mostly used for static analysis. It's again a damn good tool. You can use that. Okay. You can start with basically checking out the source code of a application. Okay, you can use what is the tool name, GDGUI for that. Okay, and extract everything and check out, like, okay, manually, like, okay, you can find some hard-coded passwords or keys or tokens. Okay, you can few issues will be like hard-coded firmwares, URL, like, okay, API call, like, okay, if they are having encryption key, most of the time you can find it out. Okay, username, password, hard-coded username and a password. It's mostly like admin, and it's really shocking. As I already told you, like, okay, I tested a Chinese webcam few months back. I presented that in some meetup. So when making a communication with the cloud, okay, so it's having like, okay, username admin and there is no password. It's like a blank password you can send. So it's really a shocking, like, okay. Now talk about radio. Okay, if you checked out on internet, like in past 2 or 3 months, there are lots of guys. They are just sorry if someone is there. They are just promoting, like, okay, radio hacking. And if you just went to their post, so they simply showed you, like, okay, you can hear any radio channel on your system. Okay, so they are not going that deep when we are talking about the VAPT part or the communication. Okay, so what you can do with the radio is, like, okay, you can make a jamming attack over there, modifying and replay attacks, sniffing the radio packets. Okay, there is a damn good tool known as SDR. Okay, you can easily find on Amazon. Okay, and it's basically helps you to retrieve, like, okay, what sniffing, basically what what particular radio frequency, okay, the things are going on, so you can easily sniff that out. Okay, there are lots of things you can do, like, okay, you can check out our aeroplanes, what we are coming. Okay, I forgot the name, what it is. The aeroplane, it's not basically communication. You can check, like, okay, which aeroplane is visiting right now. Okay, what aeroplane takes off. You can take out SIFT. Okay, I recently tried to do that. Your key drops. Okay, if you are having a car, obviously the remote, you are locking with your remote. Okay, it's working on RF. So if you know the frequency, okay, so I can easily open that particular car. Like, okay, I checked out, like, okay, in most of the I think last year in Nalcon, someone showed like, okay, a car hacking, and it was really a cool thing, like, okay, car hacking and everything. So, according to my thing, if I'm just able to bypass your door, like, okay, with the RF, so I can get access to your car. So I don't have to do lots of things like, okay, to find out some pins and to exploit that thing. It's damn easy. I just try to check out your frequency. I just open the gate and I am. Now talk about BLE, like Bluetooth Low Energy, on which like most of your smart things work, your band, your everything. So what mostly, I think in one of my meet I showed like, okay, how I can exploit a smart band. I tried to exploit my fast track smart band. Okay, so it's damn easy. Like, okay, Bluetooth is basic. See, the issue is if I'm talking about with the IoT, like, okay, we can't have a keyboard for some security or for some passcode. Okay, on your the little smartwatch or a band. Okay, and we can't have the same thing with your cams. Okay, or if I'm using a Amazon Dot. Okay, or Google Home or a Google Mini. So we can't have a small keyboard or something like to use some passcodes or some security codes or something like that. So that is the main reason, like, okay, you can exploit such things. So for how BLE works, okay, BLE is working on like service and the characteristics. Like, okay, there is a service like this showtime. Okay, then there will be a characteristics. Okay, you have to show minutes, seconds. Okay, you can put alarm. Then alarm, the characteristic will be, okay, what characteristic it will be used, like, okay, time and everything. So you can have a bunch like that. Like, okay, the characteristics, the service and the characteristic. Like, okay, service and what is the characteristic of that service. So I try to change like, okay, my time. Okay, some colors. Okay, there are few devices you can use for BLE. Bluetooth is damn costly. Okay, damn costly. And there is one good tool, CSR. Okay, Bluetooth version 4.0. You can easily get on Amazon or on a local shop also. It's damn cheaper. Like, okay, you can easily get in, I think, $200. And the tool mostly used for BLE exploitation or a Bluetooth exploitation. Okay, there's a damn good tool present in Kali known as Get tool. Okay, and if you are not having a Kali or if you are not used to it, if you are having an Android device, there is a option available in developers mode known as HCI dump. So it's damn easy. You just connect your watch with your phone, start your HCI dump, and start communication. So you will get all the details over there, like, okay, how it is communicating, how things are going on. And before that, you can start with, there is a damn good tool known as SCI tool, again presented in Kali. So it will gives you everything, like, okay, what is the service and characteristics available. Now talks about now with the next part. Okay, we tested like till BLE, the ZB. ZB is mostly used to monitor the things, like, okay, you can use ZB. It's basically a low wireless protocol. Okay, and what you can perform in ZB. ZB is mostly used, I think, in your I noticed in some of your smart devices for industrial controls, your water motors or smart water motors or smart temperature controls, they are using ZB. So in ZB, you can use sniffing for that. MITM is possible in ZB. So there are two tools if you want to exploit ZB. The hardware is RZ11. Okay, you can easily get in local market, okay, or even in your Amazon or like that. Okay, and there is a damn good framework known as Killer B. So you can use that thing also, and it's really a nice tool. It will help you to exploit that particular thing. So these are the attacker tools, mostly what I'm using. Okay, so I want to share with you. Okay, for packet inspection, I'm using Wireshark. Okay, sorry. For proxy, I'm using Bugsuit. You can use OAuth also. For Bluetooth, Blue Hydra is there, GAT Tracker is there, HCI tool is there, BTLE Juice is there, Wireshark, okay, SDR, as I already told you. Software defined radio, it's basically like our older radios, they are having big or something like that. So it's just like your USB drive. You can just plug it in your system, and you can use some softwares, and SDR softwares is available at RTL SDR. Okay, and it will function just like your radio. Okay, and well, as you know, we all are into like cracking or hacking or a security field, so we can just try to exploit more or explore more things, okay, that are running on the radio packets. For mobile reverse engineering, APK tool is there, JEDEX is there, software disassembler, Ghidra. I prefer to use Ghidra for that. IDA is there, Binary Ninja, there are thousands of tools. Only DVG is there. Firmware reversing Binwalk, that is the best tool. Okay, you can use any extraction tool, as I already told you. FAT is there, Firmware is there. For fuzzing, Kemu is good tool. Flash ROM is there. Okay, and Minicom is used like, okay, for your UART. Okay, if I'm testing some UART port, or if I'm exploiting a UART port, so we are using Minicom for that. Okay, and for hardware, you require obviously screwdriver, multimeter, soldering irons. Okay, as my suggestion, if you want to explore more into IoT, okay, so start learn how to solder, how to desolder the chips and everything. You can buy some. There's a damn good vulnerable hardware available of ATP. You can buy that, or you can even for prior to they are having exploit kit, so you can buy that. But or if you want to buy some cheaper one, so you can just take one thing. Like, okay, if you want to exploit a UART, just take one thing, buy some cheaper hardware, and you can exploit that. Okay, so don't go. It's my suggestion. Don't go for a whole package. Like, okay, you can just buy a single product and you can test it out. Interface tools, USB to UART, flash dumper is there. For RF, Ubuntu, okay, that is again damn costly tools. Okay, for software, RTL SDR, as I already told you. HackRF is damn good tool. It's like a bi-directional. In RTL SDR, you can only receive the things. Okay, but in HackRF, Blade RF, it's a bi-directional. You can even transmit and you can receive it. But again, they are damn costly. For ZB, CC2531 sniper is damn cheaper. You can easily buy from your local shop also. Sorry. Or from Amazon or Flipkart store. Okay, you will get in under, I think, $400. So these are some reference. ITP, IoT Pen Testing Cookbook, okay, IoTPentest.com, IoTPentestGuide.com, and special thanks Rigyasu, Mr. IoT Vijayababu is like God to me. That's all from my side. If you're having any questions later on, if you want more things, you can buzz me on any of these things like Facebook, Gmail.
Thank you for your wonderful presentation, Vismit, as the emergence concept called IoT in recent days of this internet era. So everyone must know about how IoT works or IoT stuffs. So in few years, a hacker could gain access to your home without even touching the door. So as the all Siri, Alexa, and Google are integrated with every IoT stuffs. So IoT is really a nice thing. So thank you. And now we have Alexis Ahmed, aka Hackersploit. He's an young IT professional with over 6 years of experience in InfoSec and pen testing. He has a YouTube channel called Hackersploit with over 500k subscribers, and he also teaches number of courses in Udemy. He'll be presenting about the most famous and prominent topic, Docker for bug bounty hunting and penetration testing.
This talk is going to be about the hunting and penetration testing in general. All right, now before we actually get started with anything, I just want to clear up a few things regarding what I'll be covering in this video. So of course, I'll be taking you through setting up Docker on Linux and the various commands that will help you get started and effective. So we'll be talking about the tools and the environment, and then we'll move on to setting up a hacking lab with Docker. And again, I'll show you how to use various toolkits that you can use for your bug bounty assessments and any of your penetration tests. All right, so let's get started. First of all, if anyone of you has never heard of Docker or hasn't used it, Docker is essentially a system that allows you to build and deploy applications and services in the form of containers, right? So an easy way of looking at this is comparing it to your typical hypervisor like VirtualBox, where you have virtual machines. So I'll get to the comparison in a second. So it is a platform as a service offering that utilizes the host operating system kernel, as opposed to, typical hypervisors like VMware and VirtualBox, right? So instead of actually utilizing VMs and the typical VM infrastructure, they all of the containers, which is the name of the actual virtual machines or the isolated VMs, all use the host operating system kernel. This will become much easier to understand in a second. So the containers are what you would call like VM templates or VMs, right? So the containers contain the dependencies and the libraries that the application or service needs to run, therefore eliminating the need for installing dependencies and managing the operating system or managing an entire other operating system. And Docker containers are much more efficient than VMs, as they utilize the host kernel as opposed to virtualizing an entire other operating system. So just to explain this really simply, let me just take you through a bit of a history with hypervisors and virtualization technology, just to show you how great Docker is. So let's start off with a simple example where, if you're usually in the early 90s, the early 2000s and the late 90s, companies started utilizing applications, it could be mail servers, hosting their own websites, web applications, so on and so forth. And so companies started migrating or started utilizing the internet for business, right? Which meant they now needed to buy servers so that they could host these applications, the mail servers, so on and so forth. So typically what would happen is that the IT team would look around for servers that they would want, and they would buy an entire server rack, and based on their requirements of the application, they would then buy one with the appropriate resources. But in many cases, what happened is they would buy a much more powerful server than they actually needed, and what would happen is that utilization would remain low throughout its lifespan, and the application would only account for maybe 5 or 10% of the overall system resources. So people would always buy things or servers that were more powerful, because it was really difficult to predict load and what type of load you'll be expecting. So people would always buy the most expensive and the most beefed up versions. And the obvious problem here is that there was underutilization of these resources, because these servers would essentially just sit in the server room or in a closet somewhere, and they would only be running one application. So this was highly inefficient. So that's where companies like VMware and later on VirtualBox from Oracle came in, and they introduced hypervisor technology, which allowed you to host more than one operating system, which means you can now host more than one application on the same server, which was really great, because now they could host their mail server, they could then host their web application, and again, you could host a Linux box, you could host a Windows box. So for example, if they were running their mail exchange service on Windows server, they could host a VM with Windows server, and if they were running their mail server using Ubuntu, they could host that separately. And that means that system resources were now being utilized much better than they were before. However, the obvious issue here, or the obvious problem, was that with these hypervisor solutions like VMware and VirtualBox, you had to virtualize another operating system, which means those resources, or half the resources, will be consumed by that other operating system, and then the rest is left to the application. So for example, if we take a look at this image here, you can see exactly what I'm talking about. So here we have our containerized applications. and I'm talking about Docker, and the other containerized solutions are LXC, which is Linux containers. And here you have your typical hypervisor infrastructure, which you can now understand what I'm saying. So you have your hardware infrastructure, and then you have your hypervisor, which is VirtualBox or VMware, and this is obviously running on the host operating system. And then you have your virtual machines. Now the problem is quite obvious here. You can see that the guest operating system that you're virtualizing is taking up more than half of the resources that you've allocated to that virtual machine. So for example, if you are hosting a Windows 7 VM, half of it would go to hosting the operating system, and the rest will be left to the application. So that's highly inefficient, because the app then is left with what's left over. And again, this was another form of inefficiency that many people were talking about, because you essentially had to host entire other operating systems, and then what comes with that is the additional cost of licensing for these other operating systems, and then you need to manage those operating systems. You need to have administrators constantly patching them, so on and so forth. Now with Docker, what you have is you have your hardware infrastructure, you then have your host operating system. In this case, in the case of this presentation, I'm going to be talking about Linux. You can run Docker on Windows to host Windows containerized applications, but that's beyond the scope of this talk. And so again, you have your host operating system, which can be Ubuntu, Fedora, it really doesn't matter. And then you have Docker, right? Docker runs, the Docker daemon runs right over here on top of the host operating system. And then you have your containerized applications that are all using the host operating system, right? So they're all utilizing the host kernel right over here, which means you do not have to virtualize entire operating systems. So what does that mean? That means, number one, they're faster loading speeds and startup speeds. Secondly, much better system resource consumption and utilization. And you can see in the case of these two, both of these setups have the same hardware infrastructure and configuration, which means, for example, they both have 8 gigs of RAM, dual core CPU, and you can see that in the case of containers, you can run more. You can actually run twice the amount of containerized applications than you can VMs with the same configuration. So it's a much improved efficiency. Now that we understand the difference between Docker and traditional hypervisors, we can actually start taking a look at the advantages of using Docker for pen testing and bug bounty hunting. Right. So as I've mentioned, Docker works on Linux, Windows, Mac OS. So it provides you a multi-platform solution or base for running containers. So you can run your tools and environments on multiple operating systems. And because of the ability to containerize configurations and to have the containerized systems, you now have the Kali Linux and Parrot OS images, and I'll talk about the difference between images and containers in a second, with full repository support, which means you can easily set up multiple instances of Kali and Parrot and set them up with your own configuration. You then also have your containerized vulnerable web applications like the OASP Shop, the DAM vulnerable web application that can be used for training and learning. Right, so you can easily set them up for students if you're currently hosting a CTF, and this will all become apparent when we take a look at the practical aspect here. All right, you then have your pen testing and bug bounty toolkits, which I currently set up. And the reason I set up a bug bounty toolkit for myself with Docker is because whenever I'm performing a penetration test, I usually set up a cloud instance, which means I want the exact same configuration of tools wherever or whenever I set up a new cloud instance. And it was really becoming quite cumbersome installing all the tools manually. Even if I created a bash script to install them, it was really inconvenient because in one event, one application or one script would require a few more dependencies if it was updated. So and around this time I was also using Linux containers quite a bit, and I really liked the application of containerizing environments that you can then deploy on multiple computers, and it will remain the exact same in terms of functionality. You won't have to do anything else. You just plug and play and you have the exact same toolkit that you had on your laptop at home, right? And then winding off, Docker is extremely resource efficient, and the tools and images can be easily updated and pushed to all the users who use them. All right, so that concludes the presentation aspect. I'm not going to get started with the practical demonstration, so I'm just going to bring up my VM here, and we'll go into my terminal. So I'm currently running this on a VPS, and the reason for that is because there's much faster internet speed. So again, getting started, we first want to take a look at installing Docker and then enabling the service. So let's do that right now. So I'm currently running Ubuntu here, and you can see my kernel version is version 4.15. This is Ubuntu 18.04 LTS. And let me just clear this up, and I'll increase the size of the font here so that everything is visible clearly. All right, so to install it, we use the aptitude package manager. So you can also use pacman if you're using an Arch-based distribution. So apt install, docker.io, right? And you want to hit enter, and I already have it installed. The second thing you need to do is you need to enable and start the service so that the Docker daemon is running. All right, so we use system control, and you can then say enable Docker, and I hit enter, and Docker is already enabled on my system. So that means it will run at startup. I highly recommend that you do this if you start using Docker regularly, and then I want to start the service. And then I can say system control status Docker, right? And that gives me the status of the Docker service. You can currently see that it's active, it's loaded and active, and it's running. So that means we can now utilize Docker. All right, so I'll take you through the essentials now. So first of all, let's talk about Docker images and containers, right? So Docker images are essentially just your VM templates, right? So these are environments that are pre-built and can be easily downloaded and then, you know, turned into containers, right? So again, you can find Docker images on the Docker Hub, right? So the Docker Hub is like a repository for all, you know, Docker images that are publicly available. So for example, if I wanted to look for the Ubuntu Docker image, I would simply search for Ubuntu. If I wanted to run a container running Ubuntu, I just hit Ubuntu here, and that will take me to the official Ubuntu Docker page here on the Docker Hub, and it gives me instructions on how to pull this Docker image, right? So let's talk about that right now. So as I said, we have Docker images and we have Docker containers. To view your Docker images, we type in Docker images, right? And that gives me a list of all the images that I have. You can look at your Docker images as ISO files, right? Or installation files for VMs, except they're already pre-configured and you don't have to do anything at all. So a better example or a better analogy of looking at is looking at Docker images as OVA or OVF files for VirtualBox, right? So you just set them up, and it's much faster. It immediately sets up the container, and you now have an environment. So in my case, I have OWASP Juice Shop, Kali Linux rolling, the bug bounty toolkit that I created, ParrotSec or ParrotOS, and the damn vulnerable web application. All right, so these are the images that I can use to create containers, right? And to do that, if I list my current containers that I have running, and to do that, I type in docker PSA, you can see we have 0 containers currently running, which are your VMs now, but nothing is running. And the important thing to take a look at when you're taking a look at your images is you have your repository name and the image ID. So the image ID is a unique identifier that will also be there with containers. You'll have unique container IDs. This will allow you to uniquely identify your images, because you can also install various versions of images. So for example, if I say Docker pull, and I'm pulling from the Docker Hub repository, so I say Docker pull, if I say Ubuntu and I hit enter, that's going to pull the latest version of Ubuntu, right? So I'm just going to wait for that to pull, and there we are. So now if I say Docker images to list my images, you can see we have Ubuntu, and this is running the latest version, which is 20.04. If I want to pull version 16.04, I can also do that by saying Docker pull Ubuntu 16.04. And to do that, I would need to use the colon here. So 16.04, and I hit enter, and that's going to pull Ubuntu version 16.04, which means I now have 2 versions that I can set up. All right, so again, Docker images. Let's say I want to run a container, you know, for Ubuntu 16.04. So I'll just copy the image ID here, the unique image identifier. And to get started, if I want to run a container from an image, I simply type in docker run, and then I specify various arguments. So in the case of Ubuntu, this is an environment that I can actually interact with using an interactive terminal or a TTY session. So to specify that I want to interact with this container through a terminal, I type in IT, so that means interactive session, and then I can specify a name for this container. In this case, I'll just call it test, right? and then I specify the container, the image ID, which I just paste in, and then I specify the shell that I want to use. In this case, is going to be bash. Sorry, I'll just specify the absolute route to bash, and I hit enter, and you will see now that I'm currently logged in on that container. So this is the Ubuntu container, and I can confirm that by typing in cat etc issue, and you can see it's running Ubuntu 16.04 LTS. So I'm currently in that container, and now because I'm in that container, I can do whatever I want, and this is essentially like a VM, right? And the interesting thing is, remember, it's sharing my host operating system kernel. So it's sharing my host OS kernel, which is version 4.15. Okay, so now I can do, pretty much whatever I want, and it's a fully isolated container or a VM, which means anything I do in here doesn't affect the system. And it's currently persistent, which means this container is going to be saved, and any work that I've done, any files that I've stored on it will be available. So for example, if I just go into my home directory and I say vim test.txt, and I don't have vim installed, so I'll just install that apt. So I'll say apt update and apt upgrade. Let me just upgrade my packages as well. Sorry. Let me just correct that command here. There we are. And then I'll install vim in a second here, and we'll just create a file with a bit of content. So there we are. Just run an upgrade here. That's going to upgrade any of the packages. There we are. And now I can say apt install vim, and that's going to take about 54 megabytes. That's fine. That's going to set up vim for me now, and there we are. I'll just run the previous command where I created the file, and I'll just say this is some text data, and I'll save that. And now when I want to exit from a container, I hit exit, right? And that's going to take me back to my host operating system. So now that we've talked about images, now we have our containers, and to list our containers, we say docker psa, and you can now see, if I reduce my font size, the container is listed here. And remember, we gave it a name, and the name is also specified. So it gives us the container ID and the image that was used to create this container, and the command that we ran with it, which is bin bash, and the status. This is very important. The status tells you whether the container is currently running or is in an exited state, which means it's shut down. In our case, you can see it's telling us that the container is in an exited state, which means it's currently not running. And again, if we want to start up the container again, we say docker. Now we specify the container option. So docker container start, and then we specify the name of the container, or you can specify the container ID. We hit enter. That's going to start it, right? But it's not going to take us into that container or log us into that container. However, if we hit docker psa, you can now see the status is telling us that it's up, right? And it gives you the history of how long it's been up. In this case, it's 9 seconds. If we hit it again, it's now 17 seconds, so on and so forth. So the container is currently running. And to attach ourselves to it, or to log in, or to actually get a terminal session, we need to say docker container attach. Sorry, that is attach here. And we specify the name of the container or the container ID, and that is going to log us in. There we are. So now again, we can check the directory, the home directory where I created the test file, and there we are. You can now see we have the test.txt file that we created. So the changes have been persisted, right? And again, you can also create containers that you can use one time, and then after you're done, or once you exit from the container, it actually just deletes the container for you. And to do that, we use the docker rm command. So again, if I just want to delete this container, so I say docker remove or rm, and I say test, right? And that's going to exit. So now if I list my containers, you can now see we have no containers running. All right. Now that we have that done, we can actually start taking a look at various tools that we can set up now that we understand the basics of using it. So first of all, I want to start off with Kali, and you can find Kali on the Docker Hub. All you need to do is type in Kali, and you're typically looking for the rolling version, which has the latest repositories. Again, so to pull it, you just copy the docker pull command here. And since I already have it pulled, or because it's actually updated, so I'll just pull it one more time just to make sure that I have the latest image. Yeah, so I do have the latest image. So again, running it is very simple. It's very similar to Ubuntu. We simply say run, And now, because I want to delete the container once I'm done, I specify IT for an interactive terminal, and then I specify RM. That will ensure that the container is deleted once it's in an exited state, right? And then I specify the Kali Linux image, right? So let me just get the ID of the image, which is right over here. So that is the unique image ID. So docker run IT RM, and I will then want to specify a name here. So again, I'll just specify name, and we'll just say this is a test, and we specify the ID and bin bash, right? And I hit enter, and there we are. So now we are currently in the Kali box, and again, I can confirm this by saying cat etc issue. Apologies for that. There we are, cat etc issue, and we're currently running Kali Linux rolling edition. So now that we have access to the Kali repositories, this Kali image doesn't have any tools installed, so you need to configure it to your to what you would prefer. So again, I can say apt update, and then I can install all the tools that I want, for example. And this is the great thing about running Docker, is the images are lightweight, and you can set up only the tools that you're going to use. So apt install, let's say I wanted to install a few bug bounty tools, I can say I want nmap. Let's see, we can install Fierce as well, DNS enum, and we have GoBuster. And this is the great thing of having the Kali repositories, is you can install all of these tools with one click. And if you run it on a VPS, the internet connection is extremely fast, and you can set all of these tools up relatively quickly. All right, so I'll wait for this to install. So it's installing quite a few tools. And you can see how easy it is for me to set up an instance with all the tools that I need. But this is still cumbersome because I need to install them. So again, if we type in GoBuster, that works. And maybe I wanted to install something like WordPress scan. And you can see it's extremely easy. I don't need to do any setup, install any dependencies. The repositories automatically do that for me. And there we are. It just takes a few seconds. And now I have an environment that I can use, and one that is tailored to what I need, as opposed to a system that has tools that you probably will not use or will rarely end up using. So there we are. So that's how to use Kali. Now, because I specified the RM option, you can now see that after the container is in an exited state, it is currently not running, which is what it's currently not running. And it got deleted, which is exactly what we want. We don't want a persistent session of a box that we used for pen testing. So let's talk about ParrotOS. ParrotOS comes with a few tools. As you can see, the size is huge. It's about 4.7 gigs. And again, to run it, we can run the previous command and just remove the Kali ID here and replace it with the ParrotOS image ID. So there we are, we hit enter, and we're now in ParrotOS, and we get the familiar ParrotOS terminal. And we can now, because I think we have the tools installed, nmap is available. We have WordPress scan also set up. So we'll wait for that to load. And there we are. Joom scan. Do we have a GoBuster? Let's see if we have GoBuster. So we don't have GoBuster installed. So you might have to install the tools that are currently missing, but Parrot has done a very good job. I'll give them credit. They've done a better job than Kali, because Kali doesn't install anything for you, which I understand. They actually use this for custom images and solutions that you might want to use if you're hosting a CTF and you want to install only a certain or specific tools. So again, ParrotOS is quite good. You have access to the Parrot repos. Let's see if we have GoBuster here. So apt. I'm not really sure whether the ParrotOS has the Parrot. Yeah, so you can see in the case of the ParrotOS, I've actually updated my repositories here. Let me just update the Parrot repositories, because I think it does have GoBuster. There we are. Yes, so it does have GoBuster. So again, you can install the tools that are currently missing. And both the Kali and the ParrotOS repositories are extremely useful, and they have multiple tools that you can use to set up your own environment and use in pen tests or bug bounty assessments. And it's much better because, for example, in my case, I can have all my tools running in one terminal, and then of course I can run my proxy, which is burp or wasp shop, on the host operating system, and I don't need to use any VMs or anything like that will take up huge amounts of system resources. So this is quite excellent that way. All right, now let's take a look at the bug bounty toolkit, which is the toolkit that I set up and has all of the tools that you'd use in a bug bounty assessment or when you're performing bug bounty hunting. And you can find this on this repository here. So github.com, Alexis, Ahmed, and bug bounty toolkit. And again, you can pull the image. You also have the Docker file on my repository, so you can customize the Docker file. The Docker file essentially just contains all the instructions to build the Docker image. So you can see it contains all the tool installation and dependency setups. So again, you can also find this on the Docker Hub. So bug bounty toolkit. I'll just search for it here. It should be the first option. There we are, Hackersploit bug bounty toolkit, and it was just updated a few days ago. And this is the list of tools that it currently has. So bucket finder, DNS recon, DIR search, mass DNS, Nikto, recon ng, all set up and ready to go. So I already have the latest version, but I'll just pull it one more time, and we can then start talking about the pen testing environments and setting up your own virtual hacking lab. All right, so now that we have the image, I say Docker images, sorry. My apologies, my keyboard is right in front of my microphone here. So Docker images, and there we are. We have the bug bounty toolkit, so I'll just copy that. So Docker run, I'll just specify the IT option first, and then RM, and we specify the name or the image ID here. And that is IT, and we specify bin bash. I also have a Z shell or these ZSH. So again, bin bash, there we are, and we're now in the bug bounty toolkit. So if I list my current home directory, you can see we have the toolkit directory. I also have the seclist word list configured. So again, if I can run any of the tools that you typically use for bug bounty. So DIR search, for example, recon ng is fully set up and can be used without any dependencies needing to be installed. There we are. Also have nmap set up, Nikto, and all of the other tools that you can check out. So again, you can see there's no end to the environments that you can set up with the tools that you require. And there's multiple toolkits out there, for various things like Android pen testing, reverse engineering of Android applications. So all, tools like APK tool, so on and so forth. Right, so you can see we have plenty of environments that you can set up. Now, the real power of Docker comes from DevOps, right? Because this is where Docker is usually deployed the most. So, DevOps companies or companies that develop web applications, the problem that they usually had was when they sell these web applications to companies, they need to also send installation instructions and setup instructions. Most of you already know this. So, let's say I want to buy a web application for my business, and let's say it is a reservations booking system, and so what will happen is the developer will send me a whole list of instructions or installation instructions that need to be done before I can actually set that web app up. Stuff like installing PHP, MySQL, Apache, essentially setting up the LAMP stack and then installing all the dependencies, which is extremely cumbersome for customers or clients because it can become, extremely difficult for them to set it up, and they often then have to get the developer to set it up for them. And this wastes the developer's time, and the developer then has to, communicate with the client, and this becomes a real mess. So Docker has really shined in the DevOps community because you can essentially build a Docker image once with all the dependencies that the application needs, and you can deploy it 1,000,000 times without having to set up a single thing. Now, a common example of this is, of course, vulnerable web applications, right? So, for example, OWASP Juice Shop, and you can find all the vulnerable web applications under OWASP.org, under Project Vulnerable Web Applications directory, and you have a list of all of them. So you have offline, the online version, so you have the OWASP NetGoat, CloudGoat, like you have tons of them that you can set up to learn bug bounty hunting, to also, set up CTFs. And in the case of OWASP Juice Shop, you need to install a few, quite a few dependencies. So again, it becomes quite cumbersome setting it up over and over. And when you're learning, the last thing you want to be doing is taking more than 1 hour setting up your environment, right? So again, it really is very, very simple. All you need to do is say Docker pull, just pull the image, and then right at the bottom here of the repository, it gives you instructions on actually deploying it with Docker. And in this case, we'll also be exposing this image to the internet through a particular port because it's running a web application. And with Docker images that host web applications as opposed to entire systems, you don't need to interact with them via terminal, because all you need to do is just run them once. And once they're running, you then, because you're exposing the IP onto the internet, you can easily then access it through a URL like so. So again, I'll just pull the image and I'll show you this right now. As opposed to installing, all the dependencies, setting up a LAMP stack, this is how easy it is to do it with Docker. So I pull the image, I say Docker images, and I have the juice shop right over there. I just copy it. So I say Docker run, and then I specify RM. So I want to delete the container once I'm done, or once this is an exited state. And then I specify my port options, right? So the port options are quite simple to understand. The first port that you specify is your local port, so on what interface you're binding to on your host operating system. And then the second port is going to be the container port that you want to expose. In the case of OS Juice Shop, the recommended port is 3000 on both ends. So we say 3000, and we then specify the Docker ID, image ID, and hit enter. All right, so we'll wait for that. And it's going to say all dependencies are satisfied. So it gives us some output and tells us the server is now listening on port 3000. All right, so now to test this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get my server IP. And again, I can do that really simply. Let me just do that right now. All right, so I have my server IP address, and this is just a VPS, so that will not be available. Once I'm done with it, I'll just delete it after. So again, I'll just hit in the IP here and the port 3000, and there we are. OS Juice Shop is set up without installing any dependencies, doing any of the configuration and all of the the deployment deployment techniques, and installing dependencies, setting up the database. And I immediately can host this for a CTF, or if I want to learn about specific vulnerabilities, I can set this up multiple times, right? So I can also set up multiple other containers on other ports. For example, if I go back to my terminal here, and let's say I close this, but before I do that, I want to run this in a detached state. So if I list my my current containers, you see I've exited from the container. So if I reload this, you'll see that this will not be active now. So let's say I also want to run the same image under the port 3000 on and I want to run it in a detached mode, so that the container is left running, and I can also deploy other images. So I can say Docker run, specify in a detached mode, and that's going to run it. And now once it's set up, I should be able to access it. So we'll give it a few seconds to set up the environment, because it does need to set up various options in the background. So there we are. And OS Juice Shop is now running, and then I can also run my other images like Kali if I'm using the tools there. So I can say Docker run, and again I can then run the Kali image, or ParrotOS for example. So Docker run, and I can say IT RM, paste that in there, bin, and bash. And now I can run multiple containers at the same time. So you can see I'm currently running Parrot, and I'm also running OS Juice Shop. So it really is fantastic and much more efficient than running multiple VMs, right? So again, I can use this, and when I'm done, I just hit exit, and that container is not persistent, so it gets deleted immediately. I don't need to do anything else, and there we are. So again, the Docker OS Juice Shop container is running. So again, I can just get the container ID, and they say Docker container stop, paste in the ID, and I hit enter, and now that container has been deleted because I stopped it, and now OS Juice Shop is not running anymore. So it really is quite awesome. All right, that being said, let's take a look at one more other vulnerable environment here, Docker images, and how to set it up, which is the damn vulnerable web application, which really is fantastic. So I'll just search for it right over here, and I'll also show you a few other awesome things you can do with the Docker Hub before we conclude this presentation. So DVWA, right, and I just hit enter, and you have plenty of images that have been set up by many people. So again, if we click on this one right here, which is the one I use, you can see it gives you options as to how you can run it. You can also specify or change the MySQL password. So running it is very, very simple. we need to run it in a detached mode and then specify the port. So again, I'll just say, we'll just say docker run, and I'll just copy the image ID for the damn vulnerable web application here, and I'll say this is going to be in detached mode, and I want to get rid of this container when I'm done, and then specify the port. So before I actually paste in the ID here, I'll just specify the port. So we're exposing port 80 and port 80 there, and we then specify the image ID, and just confirm that that's the way to deploy it. And you can also again then expose the MySQL database if you're going to be attacking that as well. So I'm going to hit enter, and that's going to run in the background. So docker psa, you can see it's been up for 2 seconds and it's exposed on your server port right there. So again, if we just load this on port 80 now, just going to hit enter. We're going to give that a few seconds, and there we are. Damn vulnerable web application is already set up, and it's now asking us to create or reset the database. So I'm just going to say create here, and it's going to say the database was created, and we can now log in to the damn vulnerable web application. I'm just going to log in with the default credentials, and I believe they are admin and password, and immediately we have set up a vulnerable web application that we can use for lessons, for learning about vulnerabilities. So for example, command injection, let's see, if I want to run a few commands here, I can say cat etc password, and you can see it's telling us we've entered the incorrect IP. So if we modify the security here, I just want to demonstrate that you can actually perform these, you can test these vulnerabilities with a high amount of security. So again, we can then say, run the following command cat etc password to display the password file, and there we are. So you can really use Docker in multiple ways for bug bounty hunting and pen testing. In this particular presentation, I've just gone over how to set it up, for how to set up your environment, your tools, and then of course I've been talking about how to set up, your vulnerable environments that again you can use for lessons and many other things. So again, you have access to multiple vulnerabilities here, file inclusion, again, so you can click on file 1, and then again it tells you your IP and stuff like that. So yeah, pretty cool stuff. All right, so thank you very much for having me during this presentation. I really appreciate the welcome. And again, if you have any questions regarding this presentation, you can reach me on Twitter under Hackersploit, and that is you can reach me there and send me any of your messages. If you have any questions, again, you can reach me on my Twitter handle, which is Hackersploit. And thank you very much for watching this presentation, and yeah, have a great day.
Thank you for your awesome presentation, Hackersploit. And when it comes to practice times or even testing times, I think Docker and virtualization are really helpful. Thank you. Now that we have our next speaker, Pawan Chaudhary, cybersecurity trainer and a martial artist. He was a speaker of OAS Belly and intern at HRPD and Noida Police Cyber. He'll be presenting about tactics of social engineering.
Hello guys, this side Pawan Chaudhary from Mission IT Education. I hope you all are good, and this webinar is all about the social engineering. So first we know about what is social engineering, because hackers use this technique to find sensitive information for particular user, and this attack is very dangerous for every person. So we learn about what is social engineering, how to do social engineering, and how to do countermeasure the social engineering. So today's topic is tactics of social engineering. If I introduce myself, I am Pawan Chaudhary, founder of Mission IT Education. I am martial artist, cybersecurity trainer, certified ethical hacker, OAS Delhi speaker. Also, I am in the operations security of B4G team, penetration tester, also in the team of Beside Maharashtra, as well as I'm intern of Gurugram Police Cyber Cell, and nowadays I am intern of Noida Police Cyber Cell. Today's topic is social engineering. Many people think that what is social engineering and what it relates with hacking. Okay, so social engineering is art of convincing people to reveal confidential information. The common target are help desk person, technical support executive, system admin, or kind of calling area. So why social engineering happen? The main reason is people are unaware about it. because if people know all this thing, then the chances of social engineering is being decreased. Do not feed the fish. Mind my words, do not feed the fish. Now discuss about social engineering types. So basically there are three types of social engineering. First one is human based, computer based and mobile based. Human based, some terminologies used in human based. First one is interaction, impersonation, wishing, shoulder surfing, eavesdropping, dumpster diving, tailgating and piggy banking. So these are the terminology used in human based social engineering. After that, computer based, phishing, spam, mail, pop-up window attacks, spam mail, instant chat messenger. After that, mobile based. In mobile based, there are different activities done like malicious apps using fake security app. Smishing. Smishing is the process which is done by SMS phishing. That is called smishing. Now you already heard about phishing. Phishing is an attempt to criminally and fraudulently acquire sensitive information such as username, password and credit card detail by masquerading as trustworthy entity in the electronic communication. Many cyber attacks are done in the kind of phishing like eBay, PayPal, Yahoo. Lots of phishing attacks are done in previous years. So phishing is advanced level social engineering trick. Now if I'm talking about the impact is very high in economic, privacy, danger of terrorism, damage of goodwill and even temporary or permanently closure. That are the impact of social engineering. Okay, now discuss about the phases of social engineering. There are different kinds of phases. How can you do social engineering with different steps? I also demonstrate how can you do or how the hacker do it. So first thing is that you should research about target company. What is research? You just find details about particular user with the help of their company. You can do dumpster diving, websites, tour company and even get information with different kinds of tools also. Select victim. Identify that person who is frustrated employee of the target company, because if the frustrated employee, you can get in touch with them. They reveal lots of information. After that, develop relationship. Relationship is kind of, you can select any employee and get in relation with them. And after that, exploit the relationship. Exploit the relationship means you just collect all the information, financial information and use that information for social engineering steps. How phishing works? You already know what is phishing. It's fraudulent activity or kind of phishing links that are sent by the hackers or kind of social engineerist. So basically phishing, how it works. Phishing is the way of fraudulently acquiring sensitive information using social engineering and technical subterfuge. In other words, it tries to trick user with official looking messages, maybe credit card, bank information, eBay account, PayPal account or other personal information. That things are tricked by a person who use their phone and call to unauthorized user or kind of targeted user. So basically phishing attacks operate through email and also contain malicious software or even unwanted software that can track your activity and even slow your computer. That may be the malware, virus or kind of spyware also. Phishing in email is common because many people not know that phishing via email is very dangerous. Phishing via mail is generally sent through an official looking mail from a known source. Phishing is different than spam. Spam tries to sell or product or services where phishing needs to look like legitimate organization or source. Therefore, techniques applied to prevent spam messages can't be applied natively to phishing messages. Check the source of information from mail. There are lots of techniques to find out source about particular mail. Banks will never ask for password or personal information by email. When in doubt, call the source to ensure the email is legitimate. There are lots of security threats in our cyber security field and even different kinds of organization. So you should know about where is the loophole in particular organization. Many times the human based loopholes are there because you all know that social engineering is an act of human hacking. That's why. How does social engineering attack cycle works? You all know that social engineering is kind of tricking people. So first thing is that you should gain information about particular user. After that you develop relationship and then exploitation, and the fourth part is execution. Execution means you get information of particular user via their different social engineering techniques. Information gathering consists of lots of technology, gather sensitive information about the user. You can find the birth of date or kind of phone list and even the selected member list or organizational chart. Developing relationship is kind of you have good bondage between the target. In between target and you have good bondage. He makes sure that he gains the trust of target, which he will later exploit. Exploitation part consists of trusted attacker to reveal their sensitive information like password to carry out an action. For example, re-enter your user password for reverse Facebook policy. You can gain more likes, you can get more followers. So these are the techniques or tricks triggered by the social engineerists or hackers. This action could be at the beginning or at the end of the next phase. Next phase is execution. Execution. Once the target has finished the task requested by the attacker, the cycle is complete. Basically, there are two types of social engineering attacks. First one is technical attack and second one is non-technical attack. Technical attacks are those attacks that deceive the user into believing that the application in use is truly providing them with security, which is not the fact always. But in non-technical attacks, there are different ways like calling via different fake numbers, like fraudulent activities or kind of fake information. That's are consist under non-technical attacks. Now question arises that if you know that what is phishing, you know that what is social engineering, how to detect phishing. So there are different ways that you can use and find out the phishing is there or not. First thing is you focus the URL. You first focus the URL. Is the URL is secure or not? And is the URL is real or not? For example, there is a website that is look like Amazon. Amazon is a good website used for e-commerce. You can sell products, you can purchase product, you can do marketing, you can do affiliate marketing, lots of things you can do there. But when you do the detect the phishing or social engineering, you got that there is a spoof website URL that is amazon.com. The spelling is amazon.com. That means it will be spoof, and that's very dangerous for getting information or kind of trigger peoples. Another thing is that you can get message from Facebook like last warning, your Facebook account can be turned off because someone has reported you. Please do confirm your security settings. So when you click that link, it shows that username password, and when you fill the username password, you got triggered and your information being leaked or being revealed. Another thing is that you also commented on your different kinds of status. You got mail from different unauthorized users. So that is very dangerous. Now how it look like? So first thing is that is the screen of Google Gmail. So basically Gmail shows that technical support send you notification. The first thing is that the first thing you focus that is email is not clearly from Facebook. Second thing is that Facebook technical support has sent you a notification, no indication that they know you are. Another thing is that at last go to the Facebook link, goes to the icpnet.pl. That means this is the kind of fake link that redirects you towards the malicious link. So focus this thing and you get lots of information to detect phishing. How to detect phishing? Lots of example are there, lots of ways to detect. First thing I already discussed up with you. Second thing is that it seems to be bank, company, social network, or even generic greetings. Second thing seems to a person listed in your email address book. Third gives a sense of urgency or veiled threats. And the major is main, that is grammatical mistake. The hacker or social engineers make different grammatical mistake. You can find out and detect phishing. Another thing is that spoofed websites offer hurry, official logos, and even malicious attachments. How to avoid phishing? Don't click the links. Whenever you check out the link, go through with the link. Don't click it Always type your bank web address in manually or conduct business. Never follow the link in email. Never send sensitive information by email like account number, social security number and password. Never give your password to anyone. Verify any person who contact you, whether it is phone or mail. If you receive a call requesting sensitive information, do not answer question unless they can verify their identity. Use only secured site and practice safe browsing. Never enter personal information into unsecured site. Don't use unauthorized web browsers like Tor browser or kind of different web browser for dark web or dark surfacing. That will be dangerous. If you know the proper link, then open it. If you have any doubt regarding social engineering, if there is slightly normal doubt, you just maintain your anti-malware, antivirus, anti-phishing software and ensure update to other software regularly updated. Be aware of scare tactics. For example, IRS or police will not contact you via mail asking your personal information or banking information. I already tell you, don't feed the fish. Always check your links. Some phishing attacks are very sophisticated and can dupe even the most trained eyes. Always hover any links before clicking to ensure the address is correct. Phishing site often duplicate or appear to be legitimate site. Make sure to check the web address of the site you are on. Some tools used by the hackers like Social Toolkit, Social Fish, Hidden Eye, Shellfish, Skip Eye, Seeker, or different kinds of detect phishing browsers like Netcraft is the good browser to detect is there phishing or not. Social Engineering Toolkit is the pre-installed tool in Kali Linux. Now move forward towards the practical part. How can we do or how can hackers do social engineering or kind of phishing attempts? So there are many ways to do phishing attacks like manually or as well as automatically. So many people use manually method as well as automatic method. So what we can do, so you have good knowledge of Kali Linux as well as you have good knowledge of programming language if you want to make codes manually. Okay, so I used the automation method. So I used a tool that is now called Social Fish. There are many tools I already tell you about. There are different tools like Set Toolkit, Hidden Eye, Black Eye, Seeker, lots of tools to do social engineering. So one of the tool that is Skip Fish or known as Social Fish. Both are social engineering tool. So first we import the GitHub directory into our system. Then press ls to show the list and then it shows you the social fish. So there are lots of options like you can make the phishing page of Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter, GitHub, Google, Spotify, Netflix, PayPal. Lots of phishing web pages are inbuilt there. You just use and demonstrate and you can use and do social engineering with the help of phishing attempts. So first we select any kind of social media or any kind of website you want to make the phishing link. Suppose I want to make one of a website that is Spotify. Spotify is a music website. You can listen podcast, you can listen music there. So it make a direct link and we can send this link to particular target. Now at particular case I saw on my own machine. So first we click here. When we click here this link, it will open on your browser. When it open your browser, it shows the interface of particular website. Okay, and if I send this link to particular person without putting the confidential information or username or password, you gain lots of information about what are the information. You found the IP address of particular victim, you know about what is the mobile or device he uses, user agent, as well as you got the host name of particular person, reverse DNS, IP content, whether he is from India or another country, state, city, ISP, internet service provider, as well as you got the AS number, After that, IP address speed as well as the IP currency. When you put username and password, it also capture your credential. Okay, like I put on my mobile phone Pawan and password is 54642. Then it captures and it shows there. So the victim information get revealed by the hacker by this methodology. That is called phishing attack. As you see this, that's very dangerous. If you put the banking detail there, that is very dangerous. Your banking information or your net banking will be in danger if you do this kind of attack or if you trap in this kind of attack. So I hope you understand easily that practical part. Now question arises that you learn lots of things like what is social engineering, how hackers do social engineering, what kinds of social engineering are in different area, how the hackers approach social engineering, how hackers send you the links, what kinds of links look likes, and there are different kinds of countermeasure. Now the question is that you do not trap in this kind of web. If you trap in this kind of thing, you surely damage your lots of things, your credential, your transaction, your important things. So beware of social engineering. Don't be the victim of social engineering. Share knowledge with others how to secure from social engineering, because hackers or social engineerists or kinds of other cyber criminals think that normal people can't know about the social engineering and this kind of techniques, because these are the tricking things. Anyone can trick you by this kind of phishing or this kind of fake mails. So beware of this kinds of thing. Social engineering never patch, because if you must know that please do not feed the fish. If you feed the fish, you will be the target of fish. I hope you enjoy the session and you learn lots of things. Thank you very much for giving this opportunity to present in front of you. You can follow me in different social media at the rate Chaudhary Pawan Solo. You can contact me at www.bit.ly/askpawan, and you can contact via mail hackerscps@protonmail.com. Jai Hind, Vande Mataram.
Thank you so much, Pawan, for your presentation. The celebrities who receives the security protection is also becoming a victim of social engineering attack, a vulnerability which cannot be never fixed until you are smart. Thanks for your presentation. And now that we have our next speaker, Harshith Priyan, an youngest 13-year-old pen tester. He is the founder and CEO of Cybersecurity. He is securing WordPress sites, Linux servers and Windows server. He is also an expert social engineer. He will be presenting about securing WordPress sites.
Hello everyone, I'm Harshith Priyan. I'm an ethical hacker, a pen tester. I'm also the founder CEO of Cybersecurity, and I'm studying grade 9. So before diving into the session, I would like to thank Ranganathan and our protocols for inviting me to this event. So now let's dive into the session. So I have shared my screen. So I have divided the session into several parts. So first we'll be seeing what WordPress is, and then we'll be seeing how to set up a virtual lab. That is several ways. I will be sharing several ways through which you can set up your own pen testing environment for building for pen testing a WordPress site. And then we'll talk about different loopholes through which hackers can attack your site. And then we'll be we'll start to scan a WordPress site. And then we'll be seeing detailed about this vulnerability called XML RPC. And we'll also see how to exploit it. Then we'll see how to fix that vulnerability. At last, I will share some security tips of WordPress. So first, let us see what WordPress is. So WordPress is basically a CMS. So a CMS means content management system. WordPress allows you to create sites which without any coding. You need not know HTML, CSS, or etc. But you will be able to create a site by just dragging and dropping text boxes and etc. As you can see, WordPress is a free open source content management system. So its backend is PHP and MySQL and MariaDB. And for those who do not know what PHP is, PHP is a programming language. MySQL is a database, and MariaDB is also a database. Okay, so this is what WordPress is. Now let us see how to set up a virtual lab for pen testing of WordPress. So there are several ways in which you can set up your virtual lab to do pen testing on WordPress. So the first way is to, using 000 web host, which is a free hosting solution. You can just go into this, open this. 000 web host, to access 000 web host, it is better to use Chrome, and moreover 000 web host supports Chrome faster. That is while using 000 web host in Chrome, it will be so fast, so you can use it. So just sign in and create a WordPress site, and you can just play with it. You can pen test in it. And the second option is, you can either download this virtual machine. This is called Bitnami, bitnami.com. You can just download this virtual machine and host it in a virtual box, run it in a virtual box, and you will be able to access the site with its IP address. So basically, this method will be within your network. Outside your network, you will not able to find that site, but inside your network, you can do anything. And this last and final method would be using Docker. So Docker basically is a testing platform. Yeah, Docker is a virtualization software. It is a cloud-based virtualization software. So out here, I have used Docker in order to host this site. So it is running my local host. So you can use Docker. So in order to use Docker, you need to do some prior configuration. I prefer using Bitnami, which would be so easy to use. Docker also will be good for testing purposes. So now we'll see about the architecture of WordPress, and we'll also see different loopholes through which hackers can hack into your computer. So basically, WordPress depends on its plugins and themes. So WordPress will be a normal thing, and in it, to customize it, you will be installing plugins and you'll be installing themes. And there are chances in which your themes and the plugins which you installed can be a loophole for attackers to hack into your computer. So make sure that you check before installing a plugin in Google. You can just Google about a plugin like Elementor. This is a plugin to modify WordPress sites. So you can check whether it's correct, it's good to use, or all the vulnerabilities you can check in Google. And so now let me show the admin panel of WordPress. So normally my WordPress site looks like this. So this is how my WordPress site looks. I haven't added anything yet. And as this name suggests, I just created this page with Elementor. And now let me show the login page. admin page, -admin. So this prompt, this thing is the admin page. I have already logged into this admin page and have not logged out. So it directly redirects me into the admin page. But this is a fresh news browser. I haven't logged in it. So if I type in localhost 8000 and hit enter, I will get this site. And when I just type out wp-admin out here, I will be redirected to the login page. So this is how pretty much WordPress works. You will not be directly redirected to a wp-admin, because that is the main panel for WordPress. So there might be some sites where if you directly hit wp-admin without logging in, it will take you to the admin panel. So there you need not enter any credentials. So if a site is like that, you can pretty much report it. Yeah, so that is not an offense, because you are not potentially harming that site. That is a bug. You can report it. So here, so this is how the admin panel looks like, and here you can add users, and here you will be installing all your plugins. And out here I have only one plugin which allows me to edit the page, and I haven't installed any plugins. I will share about several plugins, security plugins, in the later part of this session. And here you will be installing the themes. So this is where, so these two things is the main part which might make your site vulnerable. Okay, so these are the methods or loopholes through which hackers can attack your site. Now let's run a scan. So we are going to use a tool called WP Scan. This tool is very famous in scanning WordPress sites, and most of the pen testers who are working in a WordPress site use this. Sorry. Okay. Now this tool comes pre-installed in Kali Linux. So in order to use it in Kali Linux, you can just type in WP scan and --help, and this lists out all the commands you can use with it. You can use this. It is also comes pre-installed in ParrotOS, but if you want to use in macOS, you can clone that repository. Just go into this, search for WP Scan GitHub. And you can download from any of this, clone it, and run it. It will work. It will work great. Yeah. Now let's see what are all the options. So what we'll be using is, there are several things which you can do. Like you can scan particularly about a plugin or theme. So first what I will do is, this is the basic command to scan any website, wp scan --url. So here in this URL, if you are using it locally using Docker, you should not directly type localhost and the port number. Just you have to type http://localhost port 8000 and a slash, and then you should enter the remaining keywords. And if you are using it from a virtual machine like VirtualBox, instead of this localhost 8000, you should enter your IP address, and then you can either put -e space VT comma VP. So what VT comma VP means is VP stands for vulnerable themes. So it checks whether any theme is vulnerable to exploit the site, and VP means that vulnerable plugins, as I said. And the best way to do is you can directly enumerate, which will give you all results like including plugins, themes, users, and etc. It will give the complete scan, complete vulnerabilities in that site, but it will surely increase traffic in that site if they have warned you not to do it, not to increase the increase the traffic. Don't use this. You can either use -v, VT, VP, but I prefer asking their permission before scanning. Just type in, yeah. Now, okay, sorry, you have to add extra dash. Now the scan has started and it would surely take some time. So as I have scanned several times today, it is being a bit fast. Okay. So now it is searching for users. Yeah, it's now searching for users. Okay, the scan has been completed. So here, the first bug which I said, XML RPC. So XML RPC can lead your site. It can help attackers to perform a DOS attack. DOS stands for denial of service attack, which would down your site, and it will also help the attacker to brute force your credentials. This login credentials right out here, it will help to brute force this login credentials. And the second thing is readme.html. This is also you can step this also as a vulnerability or a bug. This is nothing but the steps to do. You can just hide this directory, and this is the version of the WordPress. Version has been found, and this is the theme as I showed in the admin panel. And these are the users, admin, and it will be a WordPress commenter. So these are the two users. You don't have any other users than them. So out here from the version 5.5, the WordPress have stopped directly showing the directories like wp-content/uploads. So this has been a bug vulnerability in the past years. So just okay. So here you can see right here. So wp-content is one of the key folders. So to tell what wp-content folder is, whatever things you upload in the WordPress site, for example, image which you use as a background, everything would be listed in that uploads file. So why I am telling it is a vulnerability, because For example, you are uploading a Aadhaar card of a person, and in in your site, and if that site is vulnerable to WP-content, it is surely going to show that Aadhaar card, which is not good. So what I have, so this site, as it is version 5.5, this doesn't have that vulnerability. It has come prefixed in it. So that's the second most severe vulnerability. So this vulnerability has not been fixed in any site till now. There are options to fix it, but it should be manually fixed. And most of us using WordPress are not aware of this vulnerability. So now let's see how to exploit. So what we are going to do is, so the first thing we are going to do is enumerate users. And then we are going to brute force their credentials. And please make sure that you don't do these steps in any live sites. If you are doing it, make sure that you get their permission. If you are not asking their permission and performing these attacks, you will surely be caught. And there are some guys thinking that using VPN and performing these attacks will not, result you in jail. But using VPNs doesn't prevent you from being arrested. It surely is going to be a bad result. So don't try this without their permission. If you are testing locally, you can surely do this within your LAN. So next we are going to brute force the credentials and log in with it. So pretty much that's it. So first we'll enumerate users. As you can see, user has already been enumerated in the first scan itself. But if you have used -e vt, vp, it is not going to be enumerated. Then you should type in /users. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, -e -u. Yeah, you will be using -e -u. Okay, yeah, -e small u. This will enumerate the users. Yeah, as you can see the users enumerated. So the next thing you are going to do is you are going to brute force the credentials. So to brute force, you will surely need a text password list. So brute forcing is normally like trying different combinations of password and checking whether that password is the correct password of the login page. So what we are going to do is, the first thing you can try is go into Safari, go into your browser. You just open a new tab. There is a file called DRUK.txt. So this is a big password list. You can use this, download this, and you can use this to enumerate brute force credentials. This particular file DRUK.txt is so popular in brute forcing part, but out here we are not going to see about DRUK.txt. what we are going to do is we are going to use the headers like go to Safari. Here, go to the site. Here, as you can see, this uncharacterized hello world and this meta site admin. All these things are a header. They are something like they are like an important word. So what we are going to do is there is a cool tool called Cewl, CEWL. You can do the same. This is available in Kali. It comes pre-installed. So this thing, so what this does is this with this you have to first type in Cewl -m and you are going to type the characters of the password. Like for example, the password may contain 20 letters. So either 20 you are going to enter 20, or you have another option of 16, and then you have to specify the URL in which you are trying to gather the password. Like for example, google.com. So what this does is this goes into google.com, finds the headers and lists out some of the main passwords, like main headers. There are there are 99.9% chances for being for that the header is being a password. So I will run this in my site. So in order to use this in macOS, as I said, you can just go out here, go to SEWL GitHub. Here you can just go to this. So this is basically a Ruby file. So in order to run this, you need to have Ruby pre-installed in your computer. So just can just open this and paste it out here. So I'll space yum. So my password, I know the characters of my password. So it is 7 characters. I'm going to hit 7, 10, and then the URL is http://local port 8000. Uh, okay, sorry. First thing, what I have to do is I have to go into the directory in which I have Cewl. I'll just open a terminal tab at this folder, and out here I will do the same thing. Just paste that command, and if I hit enter, okay, sorry, -m, the same thing, I will hit 7, 11 this time, and I will hit the site name http://localhost 8000. Okay. So if I now hit enter, it will go across my site, find the headers, and it will list it out. So let's wait for some time. Okay. Here you have all the headers which this tool thought is important. So here I will tell which my password is. Maybe me. Yeah, this one is my password. I have informed this priorly. So what you should do now is copy all this text. Okay, just copy all this text. Copy this. I will go into my home directory. Just open a new tab, and here I will hit C. Okay, I am into my home tab. Now what I'll do is I will create a text document, touch os.txt. I will hit enter. I will be using Visual Studio Code. Yeah, pass.txt. I will be pasting everything out here. So I have 81 headers, 81 passwords. So this file has been saved, but let's save another time. Okay. So now you have to go into this WP scan. Okay. Yeah. Now we are going to brute force the credentials. We have already enumerated the users. Now we are going to brute force the credentials. Okay. So open the next this tab. So in this you will be using WP scan hyphen users, right? So last time what we did is we entered U to enumerate the users, but this time what we do is we'll enter the user, like for example hyphen, I will be entering hyphen capital U, and here I will be entering the username. For me, in my case it's admin, and I will be hitting capital P, and then I will be entering the text file name pass.txt in my case, and if you are using rockU.txt you can use it, but rockU.txt will take a lot of time because it would be having nearly thousand more than thousand password list in it. So now if I hit enter, it will start enumerating. Okay, what I have to do is I have to specify the path of the file. So out here it is in my home directory. Where is it? Okay, so let me just, yeah, you can do this way. Just drag it to your terminal and it will select it. Now hit enter. Now this will start does not exist or not a file. Okay, I don't know why this occurs. This is, so that thing is not even taking it. Try it like this. Okay, scan is aborted. So why is this error coming? Okay, let's just remove the users. Okay, again the same error. Okay, just a second. So yeah, here we have to first type this wp scan and specify the URL and type -- passwords first and type in the past text file where you have stored the credentials and then -- usernames and type in the username admin. So now if you hit enter, it will start scanning the site and start brute forcing the credentials. So here, yeah, now performing password attack on XML RPC against one user. Okay, here as you can see, the valid combination has been found. It is admin and maybe me, as I said. So in order to prove it, I will open my Chrome instead of Firefox, as we will be using for further tests. I'll be using the same. Hit /wp-admin and login page. So my Chrome isn't working. What I'll do, I will open this itself. I will enter the password as admin and I will paste the thing which I have copied out here. This text, copy it, open my Firefox. Okay, and enter the password and the password field. I'll paste this, and as you can see, it's maybe me. And if you hit login, and I am logged in. So this is how you will be enumerating users, brute forcing the credentials, but without any password list or without any combination of passwords, you will not be able to, find the password. And not only this, there is also you can also perform a DOS attack, which is called as denial of service. So pretty much DOS is sending continuous requests like this. Show you the images. Yeah, DOS is like something like this. What it does is, like, this is the server and this is the attacker. So what this attacker does is, like, for example, this server has only a user limit of 30%, but this attacker is giving request for 50% and makes the server to flood, making the 50th person not 50th person to not access the server. So he downs the server by giving continuous request. So XML RPC also allows attacker to perform a DOS attack. So now let's see how to fix it. So I would like to share a thing out here. There is a thing called transmute.py. It is a Python program. So what this does is, so even if you are not able to find the passwords with this brute forcing with cvel or the DRUK.txt, you can use this Python program. It's easy to use. Same, you will get this in just transmute.py, transmute.py GitHub. You will get this, and you can pretty much do anything. So what this does is, like for example, you are having a password called Harshith. So this adds special character to Harshith and adds a $ in front of it turns the A upside down. So like that, this changes the password to a tough password. So there are two uses for this. You can get if the that is, if the victim's server is using a strong password like this, there are chances for you to find the password by transmuting the current list, or this you can use this to make your password more secure. So it's so easy to run. And if you want to know the steps to run it, it will be there in the GitHub. You can follow this process. And now let me share the steps to fix it. So fixing it will also be depending on the plugins. So there are different kinds of plugin. So you can just go into add new. Here you can search plugin like disable XML RPC, rpc.php. Here, yeah, remove and disable XML RPC ping back. You can either use this or even login as you can either use this, but I have this special thing, hardening. So this tool is called WP hardening. So this is from Astra, WP security. You just go this. You will get this thing called WP. This opens Astra. So this has everything. Web application firewall to monitoring. It has everything, and this is called WP hardening from Astra. Okay. Hardening. Yeah, this thing. Just hit install now. The first thing it will be it will install, and then you have to activate it. So it will take some time to install. Yeah. Now what you have to do is go to install plugins and make sure you activate this. So this gives an extra thing out here. So here you can enable this, send me security updates. What this does is this basically sends you an email whenever a threat occurs to your site. Even if someone scans your site, this will notify you with the email. Go to WP hardening. Out here you can start a new audit. What this does is this has a graphical user interface. This is pretty much doing the job of the WP scan tool, but it doesn't give the details of severe vulnerabilities. It's just a top layer of vulnerabilities. But you can use this to fix things. Here you can see these are the recommended things. It is asking me to change it is asking me to update my PHP version, and it is asking me to change my database password. It is also asking me to add a firewall to my site and a file permission checker. So you can do it by seeing the guide out here, and also you can go into security fixes. This is where you have most of the thing. As you can see, disable XML RPC vulnerability is enabled, and now if I run the same scan which enumerates vulnerabilities, this time you will not be able to see XML RPC. So let us check whether this works. So wait a minute. Scan is being, yeah. Here, if you ask me now that we have disabled XML RPC, but the usernames have been enumerated, it is that WordPress was actually built for blogging, and blogging requires your username, and so you can never stop username from occurring out there, but you can stop the brute force attacks and DOS attacks. So I'll come from the start. This is where we ran our scan. So these are the headers, and these are the things, readme.html. So here, as you can see, you can't find XML RPC because we have disabled it. Okay, so now we have seen how to fix it. Now I'll be sharing some additional tips. So the first thing is that change your login page, like um, just a second. Okay, for example, to go into the login page, out here we have entered wp-admin. What this does, this directly redirects to your login page. This is our risk, and what we are going to do is we are going to stop it from redirecting to this. So there is a plugin called change wp login. Change wp login. Go to this, hit install now. Yeah, and I would like to share a thing. The thing which we saw here, this XML RPC vulnerability exploiting it, is a part of an exam called LTP, License to Pen Test. So this part is a very important part in that LTP exam, and I have covered it. So hope you will be able to clear that part in your LTP exam. So LTP, License to Pen Test, is an exam offered by EC Council. Okay, so now let's activate this theme. So here you can see this has been activated. Now you have to go into settings. So this is where you're going to change it. Okay, 1 second. Plugins. So yeah, as you saw, just refresh this page. So as the plugin is not activated, go to settings. So go to permalinks out here. Here you can see a tab called change wp-admin login. Here, instead of login, you can type anything. You can type out, I will be typing meme page php. Okay, and I'll hit save changes. So this saves the changes, and here as you can see, permalink structure updated, and this link is the thing to log in the page. So here what we are going to do is we are going to open localhost. We are going to try wp-admin. You must log in to access the admin area. Okay, you are getting this out here. And if you hit wp-login, this is not found. And if you hit this, okay, so this URL is not found. So when you hit wp-admin, it is not redirecting you, as well as when you are hitting wp-login, that URL is not found. So with extension, we'll try PHP. Now also you get an error. So, but if you put question mark and type in the thing which I have used here, meme-page-php, type in meme-page-php. This would log me in. This would take me to the login page. So now we have changed the login page. So what this does is, this doesn't reveal the login page outside to everyone, because everyone might know that the common URL is the URL/login. So we are pretty much saving it. And the next advice is, most of the WordPress sites is not being updated on time. So what this does, this leads to your site to be completely vulnerable. So whenever a new update comes, make sure that you update it. This is where most of the WordPress sites are being hacked. And in this new version of WordPress 5.5, you are getting enable auto updates. So this will make sure that even your plugins are not vulnerable, and it will be keep on updating the plugins. Okay, that's all in this session. Hope this session is being useful for you. 1 minute. Stops. Okay. Thanks for being till the end of this session. Hope this session has helped you. And if you are interested in LTP exam, see it, and hope the part which I taught is very useful for you to clear that exam. And also, if you have any doubts till now, you can contact me through my Instagram, Harshith Priyan.8. You can search this ID and contact me. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for your great presentation, Harshit. So WP sites can be easily built, but it can become the most vulnerable website if a person doesn't know how to securely configure the site, so that the hackers do not gain access to WP login. And it was a good one, and happy to see young people with a great interest in InfoSec field. Now that we have our last speaker for Winzala 2020, we welcome Satya Narayana, a pen tester, bug hunter, a security engineer, and a trainer. Pragadish Babu presented about how companies perform web app pen testing, and if you're interested, I'm sure you will like this. And Satya Narayana will be presenting about essentials to be a pen tester.
Hello guys, welcome to this event. In this lecture, we are going to see about what is penetration testing and how to become a penetration tester, and what are all the skills the cybersecurity industry may need from you to become a penetration tester. So before entering into the session, who am I? Okay, so myself is Satya Narayana. I am an ethical hacker and penetration tester. Currently, I am working as a security engineer, and I am a top ranked CTF player, independent bug bounty hunter. So, and I think this is enough. Okay, shall we move to the sessions? Okay, and now we see what is penetration testing. See, simply penetration testing is the testing of a system, network, or application to find the security vulnerability and find how an attacker could exploit it. So, in simply, it is a process how an hacker would use to launch an attack on a business platform, a device, a network, or application. The major reason for a penetration testing is to identify the security issue before attacker find them and perform an exploit. And there are penetration testings are there: web application penetration testing, mobile application penetration testing, IoT penetration testing, SCADA penetration testing, wireless penetration testing, hardware penetration testing, and even car penetration testings are also there. Before entering into an interview or entering into a cybersecurity company, you must have to learn any one of the penetration testing at least. Okay guys, now we are going to see about the phases of penetration test. Okay, so penetration testing have majorly three major phases. One is planning phase, another one is attacking or executing phase, third one is reporting phase. In the planning phase itself, the penetration tester have to plan what kind of application is this, and they have to conclude what are all the backend technology used on their application. For example, simply even Facebook also have a web application, Amazon also have a web application, even Zomato, Swiggy, Oyo, these also have a web application. They are also okay, but the major thing, these three web application not work as a same, and the backend technology and framework used in this application is also not like same. The major thing, the attacker have to classify what is about this application, what is about their target application, how does it work, what are all the backend technology they may have built, and where is the input point, wherever the user can able to give the input. So attacker can able to plan all these things before starting into their attack. Okay, once even the client and users also give their manual about the application, the attacker have to see properly, have to listen the manual, read the manual carefully, and finalize their places and then start go for a second phase, which is attacking or executing. So once the planning is to be completed, and now the penetration tester have to go for an attacking phase. Okay, so in that attacking phase, they can able to give the different of payloads to attack the bypass attack or bypass the security levels. Okay, so after once he can able to done all their attacks, he goes to reporting phase. From the reporting phase itself, the penetration tester have to submit the report, what are all the payloads they may use, what are all the parameters they found that is a vulnerability, and they have to conclude the result for the client. And now we are going to see about what is HTTP and what is HTTPS. Even these are also very major thing. If you want to be a web application penetration tester, you must have to concentrate these two topics, what is HTTP and what is HTTPS. Simply all of them were no HTTP and HTTPS present on URL, but what does HTTP do and what does HTTPS do? Okay, so first we concentrate on HTTP. Okay, so HTTP is nothing but a hypertext transfer protocol. See, this is the protocol which is majorly used for a communication level protocol. Okay, so it may leads the communication in between browser and server. The major role of HTTP protocol is have to make establishing the communication between browser and server, but the major issue from the HTTPS protocol is it is not a proper protocol, which is it is a stateless protocol. So why I am saying HTTP is a stateless protocol? Because it is not validate what are all the URLs given by the user. For example, it may not encoding all the data from the user's end itself. Okay, so if the user send any packet to the server, it will blindly get the request and send it to the server. It will not encode it. So if the attacker may listen in the man in the middle, the attacker can able to get all the credentials of the users by without encoding. Okay, and the HTTPS is the advanced method of HTTP protocol. HTTPS is may classified into HTTPS is maybe expansion into hypertext transfer protocol secure. Okay, so in the hypertext transfer protocol secure is a secure protocol. HTTP is a stateless protocol and HTTPS is a secure protocol. It may encode all the data sent by the user and it is properly validate what are all the links may go. And now most important, we majorly going to see on what is HTTP methods. Okay, so HTTP methods plays a vital role in a web application, not only in a web application testings, even in a bug bounty or anything. These methods can play a vital role, because first of all, what is this HTTP methods? Okay, if we want to send any request to the server, it may goes to a different method by the server. For example, the get method. Okay, where the get method is used means if we want to retrieve or fetch something data from the server, it may go as a get request. Okay, so another one is post. If we want to upload anything and we want to upload the profile pic, we want to upload some data, it may go as a post method. And head method, if our request will be go in on a head body. Okay, I hope you guys know about little bit on HTML. Okay, so head tag, body tag, footer tag. So our request will goes to the server only by head. That is called a head method. And options, by using this options method, the we can able to see what are all the HTTP methods enabled in that particular application. And trace method is majorly used to trace how the request is going on, how many methods it may cross. And finally, put and delete method. See, these put and delete methods are a little bit critical methods. If the application enable put and delete method, the attacker can able to put any malicious file. Okay, so any malicious PHP file inside the server and they may get a reversal. Not in all application. If they enable put request and they may have lead some vulnerability, means the attacker can able to easily get the reversal from the application. And delete method. Okay, so even the application is vulnerability and they also enable delete method, means the attacker can able to delete anything from the server without accessing. Now we are going to see about what is HTTP request and what is HTTP response. HTTP request is nothing but a thing. If we send anything to the server, it comes under request and server may get a reply to the answer, that is comes under response. Okay, simply this is HTTP request and this is HTTP response. And now here see guys how the HTTP request go to the server. So in the first line itself, it is the HTTP request line. Okay, so here the method is get method and /doc/test.html is nothing but a URI present on the host. Okay, so what is the host? We can able to see the host in the request header. Okay, so host, what is the host? Our host is test101 is our host. So the above /doc/html refer the URI of this host. And see guys, here there is accept encoding methods, and from the body of the request in the last line you may get the book ID. For example, the parameters ID are also can able to pass by using the body of the HTTP request. Even it is a chance it may be possible to passes on the header of the request also. And now this is the HTTP response. This is nothing but a thing comes from the server. Okay, so if the response, see guys, the status, this first line 200 refers to the status code, which is nothing but for a success. Okay, and below that you can able to see the date, server, modified, accept language. So these are all comes under the response. Okay, so response headers, and last one is response body. Okay, so from the response body itself the complete HTML code of the application will be comes. Now we are going to say about HTTP status code, and I hope you guys many times face the error of 404 not found and 403 forbidden. Okay, see what does the error means, what does the error refers to. Okay, so simply we just see about HTTP status codes. There are n number of HTTP status codes are available, nearly it is 20 plus status codes. But if you guys will think it is very, remember, yeah, I agree with this, but one more thing, you must have to learn what are all the series. Okay, so if the error comes from the 100 series, what is it referred to? If the error comes from the 200 series, what does it refers to? If the error comes from 300 series, 400, 500 series, what does the error refers to? Okay, so first of all we say about the 100 series. See, 100 series is nothing but an information based status codes, which is our request is still under progress. Okay, and status 200 series is usually for a successful status. What does successful means? Our request will go to the server and server will respond to our request. That time we will see the 200 status code, and 300 status code will majorly used for a redirection. I hope you guys redirection, you may face some more redirection in any other sites online. That time the 300 based status codes will come, and 400 based status codes are usually referred as a client side error. Okay, see who are all the clients? We are the clients. Okay, so 400 status code, if we guys see the 400 based status code, means it is our side error. What does the 404 refers to? Means the 404 is refers to the page or a directory which is not found in that application, and 403 is the error for a forbidden, which means the directory and file is obviously present on server, but we guys never have the permission to access the folders. Okay, and 500 based status codes is simply for a server side error, which means the server is still under constructions, or the server may be down. That time the 500 based status code will be. And finally, now we are going to say about the most important function in web application penetration testing, which is same origin policy. Okay, see, same origin policy is nothing but a browser level security feature which is majorly used to check the request protocol, domain, and port number. Okay, so for example, if the request will comes in the genuine protocol, in genuine host, in genuine port number, then only it will forward the request to the server. Otherwise, it will throw the error. And another thing is CORS. CORS is nothing but a cross-origin resource sharing. Cross-origin resource sharing is nothing but a trick which is majorly used to share the resource or information from the other domain. For example, you just consider this client as us. Okay, and the top is domain X and below is domain Y. If we go and search for something in domain X, but the thing not present on a domain X, so now what does the domain X do? It will borrow the information or the directory file such as from the domain Y. Domain Y have such kind of information, so in that time the domain Y have to maintain properly. The administrator and developer of the domain Y have to make the access control allow origin of the domain Y to make it may be sharing the information to the what kind of domain it will be have to share the domain, share the information, and for what kind of information it have to share. For example, if the domain Y contains the login list, sure it have the database. So in that time, if the attacker force the domain Y to take their database from by using domain X, so this is majorly called as cross-origin resource sharing. You guys will learn about what are all the fundamentals to become a penetration tester. Okay, so let me show you something in a web application penetration testing. First of all, we are going to see about the major web application vulnerability, which is XSS, not something else. Okay, it is nothing but a cross-site scripting. See, cross-site scripting is the most famous web application vulnerability where you can find the cross-site scripting is wherever the application get input from the user, that is you may check for the cross-site scripting vulnerability. In simply, the cross-site scripting vulnerability is maybe classified into any number of types. For example, the reflected XSS, stored XSS, DOM-based XSS, Node.js based XSS, Android.js based XSS. But majorly it may be classified into three major types. One is stored, reflected, and DOM based XSS. Wherever the input go unsaved on the application, that place you may go and check on the stored XSS. Wherever the input will never store in the application, for example, in the search bar. Okay, if you guys go to the search bar and search for anything, means it will never store on the application. Okay, it will directly go and search for a keyword relevant in the database, and it may show the result. But if you guys go and paste any command, means see command also it also getting input from the user, but that place the command is go and store on the application and server. So that place you can able to check the stored XSS in simply in the search bar. You may go and check for a reflected XSS. And third one is DOM XSS. DOM is nothing but a document object model. I hope you guys know about document object model. If you guys are a developer, sure you get that is a knowledge in DOM. Okay, so DOM is nothing but why the document object model came to the web application is to reduce the response speed of the application and how to manage the sessions from the application in browser itself. That's what the DOM is introduced. Simply, what does the DOM do is, if you go to the web server for a first time, means it will store all the resource from the web server from the single shot to your browser. So after that, if you go and search for something else in the browser, means the request will comes from your browser itself. So the timings for a request and response will be very short. So this is the major reason the DOM will be introduced. See here, DOM also you can able to find the process scripting vulnerability. And let me show you something practical about this process scripting vulnerability. And now we are going to see practically how the process scripting will work. The attacker can give the malicious payload by using the language JavaScript and inject the payload in any part of the application wherever it calls input from the users. So I just write a simple JavaScript payload, which is nothing but a script. Alert one script goes, and I go and search for wherever it tells in the users. I paste it on here. See guys, now we got the alert 1. See, it is really surprising. The application want to print our command, but it is go and execute the command what we gives. Okay, see, this is the major vulnerability. Okay, so by using this process scripting vulnerability, attacker can able to hijack the victim cookies, and attacker can able to make any phishing page inside the real page, and also attacker can redirect the users from one side to another side. Okay, so now here I just simply write one HTML queries which is need for iPhone, which is majorly for social engineering. Okay, I hope you guys know about social engineering, so I just make one social engineering trick which is need a free iPhone and just click her. Okay, so by using hashtag, okay, so using hashtag. Okay, so inside the double quote I just mentioned the Facebook site. Okay, but in the real time attacker never mention the Facebook site, they mention their malicious site to steal the victim cookies. Okay, so for a demonstration purpose I just mentioned the facebook.com. Okay, so let me copy this one, okay, and go to the browser. Okay, so let me paste it on here. Once I just give a search, see what will happen. See, our queries will be injected into the server. This is the one of the reason the cross scripting vulnerability is also the major vulnerability in web publication. Okay, so if the victim will click the link, the click there means it will be redirected to the malicious site which is the attacker already prepared. Okay guys, and now we are going to see about the most web application critical vulnerability, which is SQL injection. See, first of all, what is SQL injection? From the name itself, SQL. See, what is SQL? Structured Query Language. It is a language used to develop a database. See, and how does the SQL works? The SQL will be work majorly based on the queries and logics. Even it is a true, it will work fine. Even if it is a false, it will not work. Okay, so this is the logic in SQL. So here the attackers can able to give the malicious SQL query inject in the server. So if the application will not validate the input what is given by the attacker properly, then there is a possibilities to make chance for an SQL injection vulnerability. Okay, so by using this SQL injection vulnerability, the attacker can able to see the complete database from the server, and even he or she may chance to get bypass the passwords. Now we just see the SQL injection. How does the SQL injection work in a real time? See guys, from the diagram itself, you just consider the user and how the normal request will go to the server. So first of all, user enter their ID password in the browser. The browser will send the request to the DNS server, and the DNS server change the domain name to IP address, and now the browser will get the IP address. Now the browser will send the request to the web server, and the web server send the request to the internal web application. Now the internal web application have the major role to validate what are all the inputs given by the user. Okay, so after the web application validate the input, and finally it will send the request to the database. Now the database will check whether the username and password will be right. If it is correct, it will show the success notification to the web application, and web application show the success to the web server, and web server finally loads the account in the browser. See, this is how normally the SQL works, but here the attacker can give the malicious queries and inject the malicious queries in the server. See, now what happened means the web application will not, if the web application will not properly validate the queries given by the attacker, see, there is a chance the attacker can able to take over or hijack any user's account from the server. So now we just practically see how does the SQL injection. Now we are going to see the SQL injection practically. So here I take one demo application to test. Yeah, here is this login. So before seeing the SQL injection, we must have to know about the logics. What is queries? Okay. So here the R refers to the plus, and refers to the multiple, 0 refers to the false, and 1 refers to the true. Okay, now we just see the gates. Okay, so R gate, in R gate 0 or 0, which means the both condition will be false, the output will be false, and 0 or 1, and the output will be 1 or 0. Okay, so the output will be 1 or 1, the output will be 1. in an or statement, okay, the both condition will be false, then only the output will be false. Even one of the content will be true, the output will be true. And now we just see about the AND statement. Okay, so in AND statement, AND is nothing but a multiple. So 0 and 0 is 0, 0 and 1 is 0, 1 and 0 is also 0. Okay, so and finally 1 and 1 is 1. Okay, so if the both option will be true, then only the output will be true. So here I just write a simple SQL query. How does they call username and password from this server? Okay, so I just use the select query. Okay, so I make a star. Okay, star is nothing but anything. Okay, so I just search for a username, that is the parameter called from the application. Okay, so and I just mention the password. Okay, so password equal to. Okay, so I just go to the username and okay, so let me make little bit space to easily identify for you guys. Okay, so here I just give 1 and after 1 I just give the single quote manually. Though now the first single quote will be equalized to the second single, now our manual single quote. Okay, so after that I just mention the OR statement. So 1 OR. Now the username will be obviously 1 and now once again I just mention the 1 which is nothing but a true statement. So 1 or 1 which is obviously true. Okay, so finally I just give hyphen space hyphen which is comment. Okay, so once I comment, the last single quote will be not considered as an input. Okay, so same thing I just copy and paste it on the password. Okay guys, now I just give. Okay, so now what is the result for the username? So finally we give the true statement for the username and for the password also the statement will be true, and in between the 1 and 2 username and password the one more condition is there which is AND. Okay, so what does 1 and 1 refers to? 1, because the both condition will be true, the output will be true. Okay, so now I just copy our query and paste it on the username even as well as in the password. Okay, so here let me give login. See guys, here we may get login. This is the impact of SQL injection vulnerability. Okay, so I hope you guys enjoy. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Satyanarayana, for showing a wonderful presentation and an eye-opener to be a pen tester. And now we come to the end of the 2 days International Virtual Hackers Fest Winzala 2020. And thank you for showing your all love and support. And once again, I would like to thank our promotional partners, Zero Day Crew, Avikstan, Beta Programmer, and the Cyber World, and our community partners, Alien Room, Invertech Global, Mission IT Education, and Cyber Upgrade for showing an extraordinary support to this event. And I hope you all love this conference, and I wish we can all meet soon in another international event. And thank you for showing a great support. Thank you. Thanks a lot.